going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Project Manga Podcast, where we cover One Piece, My Hero, Black Clover, Dr. Stone, Mashle, and Jujutsu Kaisen week to week. Back this week covering Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 47. I'm your host, Igadu.
Nox.
And I'm Melo Yanis.
And as always, before we get started, we would ask that you take a look in that description box down below where you can find links to any and all of our individual social media accounts, such as Twitter, online communities like Discord, audio listening platforms, whichever you prefer. We're on all of them, as well as links to support the podcast through our Patreon or our online shop. Also, while you're down there, like the video and subscribe to the channel where you'll get more fire-ass weekly content.
Yes.
Also, there's timestamps to navigate through the video, conveniently allowing you to avoid spoilers if you're not caught up on all the series we cover. So yeah, with all those words said, chapter 163 of Jujutsu Kaisen, Tokyo Number 1 Colony, Part 3. And we start with these high school kids. The beginning of this kind of threw me. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is this? It almost looked like a totally different manga.
Wait, how'd we get here? Where are we at?
Right. But these high school kids like bullying, almost seemingly like they're not even in this culling game zone right now, you know?
Oh, they're definitely not.
Yeah, this is a super flashback.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just threw me off. Like, why are these dudes just casually like standing around like bullying somebody as if it's not a murderous culling game going on all around them?
Yeah. I totally see what you're saying, because they don't use the black gutters, you know what I mean? Like they usually do whenever they're showing you a flashback. Like usually you just get like the black in between panel space, you know what I mean? To like let you know that this is taking place, you know, in the past, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, I could totally see how that would throw you off at first.
Right.
Yeah.
I did like it, but I agree with you in that point where it's like almost a different genre, because it really is. It's just like high school life genre. And then like Yuji shows up and he just like, he looks like a horror movie character in that entrance where he's just like, what about you? Just the Kubrick stare, just like, hey man, you want to die?
Yeah, he looks like a menace on page 3. When
Yeah,
he's like knocking off and they're like, they like look at him and he's just like in the background, like no detail, just
But yeah, no, when he looks up at him at like page 6, I was just like, dude, like that's middle school Yuji? Yeah.
He wasn't on no
cold.
games. He does not play that even back then.
I mean, we were talking about how Yuji has been like seemingly colder and stuff. That his like, you know, bubbly persona is kind of like been worn down.
Sure.
I was wondering if this might actually be another like similarity to Hunter x Hunter, where it's like the Gon thing, right? Like everyone's like, "Oh, Gon's such a cute kid," but then like, guys, the signs have been there for a long time that he's just been a cold-blooded killer the entire time.
For sure.
Like just a scary kid with good social training, and that's it.
Yeah. I think that this is just, I feel like Yuji is still like the same character, like, you know, that we met in chapter 1, according to this flashback, and it's just inside of an area that he does not fuck around in. Like, bullying people and, like, taking advantage of people weaker than you is just not something that Yuji, you know, is cool with. But then, like, literally anywhere else, you'll probably get, you know, the same dumb, you know, jovial
Him
Yuji.
goofing off, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also, like, kids are ruthless at a young age. They're just like, I haven't learned like boundaries and like how much harm I'm actually inflicting. So like, some of those kids can be really cold.
That's a big one too.
What do you think about Reggie? We finally got his name.
Reggie, yes. Oh
Reggie.
man.
Broy name.
Yeah, I think he's gonna end up not being too strong. I don't know. He looks so soft to me.
I know. He came out in the receipt dress.
Yeah, he came out with the Doflamingo receipt. The Doflamingo receipt. You know, feather cowl.
It reminds me of like those Japanese like grass capes they see in like samurai movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like the full body grass capes, but it's just receipt paper, and I'm like, what like pseudo Mad Max kind of shit is
I think
that?
he'll have a technique that like doesn't really require you to be all that strong of an individual. You know what I mean? I think it'll be a technique that like heavily relies on itself rather than the caster, you know, being someone who can just be good with any technique. You know what I mean? So I feel like we see a lot of the latter inside of Jujutsu Kaisen, where like people have really strong techniques, but they're also just that capable of an individual that like even if they're at a disadvantage, they'll find a way to make it work. You know what I mean? Whereas this dude is like, if my technique doesn't work, you got me. Is kind of the vibe that I'm getting from him. So yeah,
it made me think he might have like abilities similar to like Basil Hawkins from One Piece, where he's like, I have a debt on you, and that's represented in these receipts. So if you damage me and damage the receipts, you'll damage the person, not me.
Yeah. So like once you like get through the technique, you know what I mean, and then you pretty much win is kind of like how I'm looking at it, which makes me think that it's technically, like you were saying, is just going to be like wildly complicated and hard to deal with on the fly. You know what I mean? With like no prep and like no knowledge of it. So that could be, you know, an obstacle for
Megumi's also gonna smoke everybody. Like I'm just like, I feel like he's just gonna go to town and destroy them in a very brutal fashion. He's just like he's like I told you not to mess with me, and you immediately messed with me.
Yeah.
So you going down, so is he. I don't care how many more people you bring it, you're all going down. I can bring a zoo.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
I think that's what we all
I think it's a
want.
1v1. I can make it a 12v2. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can make it a 150 versus 2 with the fucking bunnies and shit.
That's like, I don't know. I don't think we've seen Rapid Escape used as like, you know, offensive like that. But
no.
I don't know, man. I think
how would you do that?
Yeah.
No, he's very calm here. Like just pulls out the wolf like we're wasting time.
Right. Yeah. Let's get to it.
Every time the wolf gets pulled out, I just get so sad that we saw the white one get killed. You know what I'm saying? Like the twin wolf earlier.
Yeah.
Shiro. Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah.
I do like. I like how Remy's just like, I'm warning you, Reggie's tough. He's like, shut the fuck up, I don't care.
I know we all want Megumi to just like wash Reggie and Remy, and he definitely should be able to, you know what I mean? Like he looks very confident here. I think the chapter is trying to imply that this is going to be like okay, you crossed me, it's time for you all to die. I'm ready to rack up points. You guys just gave me everything I needed to just slaughter you mercilessly. But like I'm still hung up on the whole name condition thing. You know what I mean? Like I think that this is something that Megumi should just entirely be able to low diff, but then he just fucks up and goes, Remy, you fucking betrayed me and I'm about to fuck your shit up. And then she goes, did you just call me Remy? Oh, brother. It's over. You know what I mean? And then now it's just that much harder because he played into it, you know, accidentally or something like that. I can see that happening.
He might take like a lasting wound because he underestimated them in that sense.
Yeah, or something, you know what I mean? Just something that like he wasn't considering, you know, that just makes it way harder than he was anticipating, you know what I mean? So maybe Reggie's technique is like not even a problem for him, but he just fucked up and accidentally fell into Remy's trap. So now it's that much higher difficulty because of that or something, you know what I mean? Yeah. They just got him, you know, in a stars aligned kind of situation where just everything fell into place for them.
I don't.
Sorry, Eagle. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say if anybody's got like traps laying, like it's this Reggie guy, right?
Yeah.
The vibe he gave off is somebody who's very meticulous.
Yeah.
You know, very a lot of has things planned out very far ahead. You know, he's got possibly a lot of people in debt or whatever, or keeps track of his own debts and fucking purchases and shit.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking he's probably got some traps laid throughout this building. As this fight goes down, we're going to see him like trying to lead Megumi to certain places to kind of activate certain traps and shit on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see him being like a trapster, you know, little trickster, will lure you into this area, let these things kind of fuck you up kind of thing, like while I stand just outside the perimeter, like, you know. He just seems so soft to me. Like, I can't imagine him as a fighter or, you know, or anything like that. At least not yet. We'll see.
Is it because his hair doesn't match his goatee?
I don't know. Maybe.
Is it the mismatched thing? It's like, yes, I'm a poorly dyed gentleman, a dandy, if you will, a fop.
Yeah, it's just a combination of like everything we've seen from him so far. I don't know.
Like Reggie.
Yeah, it's just intuition. Yeah, and his name's Reggie.
Reggie, Remy, like she seems like more the main character than
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Have you guys have you guys seen Squid Game yet?
I've seen a little bit.
You watched what?
The first 2 episodes.
First 2 episodes. Okay, so you saw the scene where Sung Woo was like in the bathtub before they went back to the game, just like drinking Heinekens in a suit in a bathtub.
Really, that's the reference there.
Maybe, I think so, because well, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely possible. I think
It
that
could be a
Squid
lot of
Game.
things.
I don't know.
Oh
I mean,
yeah. When they
yeah.
got released from the game because
They-
they voted and like
Yeah.
before they go back.
Yeah, before they go back, everyone's just like, man, what did I come back to? And it just shows them living their shitty ass lives before they make the decision to go back to the game. And like Sung Woo is just like literally in a bathtub in this exact same position wearing a very similar suit, right? So I don't know. It might not be a Squid Game reference, but like Gege is like really big into like movies and like film and
And he's
shit,
current.
and he
They're
references them like constantly. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
I
you
mean,
never
I
know.
thought it had a couple movie references. Like I thought Higuruma kind of looks like Quentin Tarantino type character
Oh wow.
in like Reservoir Dogs. Like he's
Yeah.
dressed black suit. He's got that very particular nose line, like a Quentin Tarantino reference.
Sure.
I also was thinking of like Inception,
Yeah.
like when they go through the bathtubs to like wake up from the dream kind of thing or go deeper into the dream.
Yeah.
They submerge themselves and like
Yeah.
the way he's acting
Yeah.
seems almost like he's following like dream logic. He's like, "Oh no, I don't want any of this to end. I just want to see this. I want to see that. I want to I want to reference movie characters. Like if you talk to me, you have to pay money."
Oh,
He's
shit.
just the way he's like interacting with things like emotionally. It's just very like he doesn't view it as completely real.
Right. It could be a reference to a lot of, you know, like Squid Game is definitely not the first time we've gotten a scene of someone fully clothed in a bathtub, like looking
Right.
depressed, you know what I mean? But just the recency of Squid Game, the fact that Sung Woo's character specifically, as well as just like the overall theme of Squid Game is just moral ambiguity and like what regular people would do in that kind of situation against all social, you know, normity of like what people say they would do versus what they would actually do in a situation like that. So since Higuruma seems to kind of be a character that's also carrying a similar theme, like Gege has to be a fan of Squid Game, you know, to me, just because of the kind of storyteller that they are, you know, inside of Jujutsu Kaisen, you know what I mean? Like they play with the similar themes inside of this series as they do inside of Squid Game, and it's just like such a blockbuster of a series that is taking the world by storm literally right now. So I could totally see it being a reference to that just because of recency. But like it could literally be anything, you know what I mean? Like the Quentin Tarantino stuff sounds really good too.
That old guy killed me though when he came walking out like in the red light green light scene and everybody's like petrified after the first few people get fucking yacked on.
Yeah.
Okay, spoiler alert, I should say.
Oh,
Spoiler
sure.
Eh.
First episode of Squid Games. Fucking that everybody's like petrified and the old guy's just like
Yeah.
walking out.
I wish I knew the fucking like Korean like words for red light, green light, because it's so catchy. It's like da da di da or something. I don't even know how to
Right.
do it, but like it reminded me of like Hakuware, fucking pot clean
Yeah.
from Hunter x
Yeah.
Hunter, like chikan des.
Yeah.
Type shit, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, that scene was hilarious.
Fuck yeah.
I'm excited for Higuruma versus Toji. I don't think it'll be as much of a fight as we were
Toji.
expecting. Or I'm sorry, Yuji.
Yuji.
Yeah, did I say Toji? I meant Yuji.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the kind of fight that a lot of people are expecting. Like I think they clash for sure, but Higuruma as a character just seems to be, like I was saying a little bit earlier, focused around, you know, themes of moral ambiguity and one's experiences, you know, straying them from their original more altruistic path, you know what I mean, which makes for a great clash against Yuji, who also represents something similar inside of his own character journey. So it could be a dialogue heavy showdown, which will do wonders for Yuji's character, in my opinion. It's just a beautiful opportunity for like a clash of philosophy and outlooks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Alright.
I always love characters with an outlook like Higuruma's where
Yeah.
he's like a vigilante justice kind of guy where through the conversation we learn Yuji's like, oh, can we use your 100 points to make a new rule that's gonna help end the game? And he's like, fuck no, like this game. I can make rules in this game where people will get punished for doing like degenerate shit,
Yeah.
along the lines of like the law or whatever.
Right.
And
Self-automated
basically,
law keeping.
yeah,
Yeah.
why would we not take advantage of that? So
Yeah.
I don't know. And his ability seems like almost like less combat oriented, like you said,
Yeah.
and more so like it might judge you based on either the type of person you are or like the things you've done,
Oh, sure.
Oh, it might
and
be
impose
imposing of rules.
imposing of rules, or either like physical, loss, or maybe mental loss. Who knows?
Yeah.
Based on
Yeah.
your actions, what you've done, the type
Yeah.
of person you are. That'd be cool to see.
I love the conversation around like Higuruma, and his technique and what its potential is, because it's like Higuruma sees, after through his experience with the law, he sees the courtroom as kind of like a very flawed system, like the court system is almost kind of like the judiciary is almost like trash, you know what I mean? Like after what he's been through, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, I read about it all the time in like Daredevil and whatnot, where Daredevil's like, yo, like I defended the shit out of this dude, but the court of law isn't really a place that does what it's advertised. Like you think you're going to get to the bottom of something, you think you're going to find the truth in a situation and then judge the person, and bring them to justice. But like courtroom sessions inside of all of the fucking like lawyer fiction that I've read so far always ends up telling to me that it's more so like a me versus you kind of thing. It's just the prosecutor and the defendant trying their best to beat each other rather than actually trying to get to the bottom of the law that was broken, the murder or the sexual assault or whatever it is. Like you're not actually trying to find out who did it, you just want to make sure that you defend your client better than the prosecutor can prosecute them, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So since that flaw is kind of being spoken about here to a certain degree inside of Higuruma's initial characterization, and just remembering all of the Daredevil that I've read, I think it's really cool that Higuruma looks to cursed energy like this is an entirely new rule system I've been introduced to, where it doesn't really fucking matter about who argued what better. If you break its rules, you're punished for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He views
like
it as elegant.
I'm trying to see like what this higher power that imposes these rules thinks about the rules being broken and what they do to the people that break them. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to see that shit. I want the culling game to keep going, because like I want to see,
I want
if
the
my
rules to evolve.
I want to see it, if my thoughts, on cursed energy law versus courtroom law, I just think that that's an incredible dynamic.
I kind of disagree. I think it will like bring to a head to violence.
Sure.
Mostly because of the bathtub. Like I haven't been like super on to like current media, and so like I've avoided most of Squid Game except for like parts that have been spoiled to me and stuff, because I'm just like, oh, I'll watch it in like a year when I forget everything.
Right.
Right.
But there is a French revolutionary called Jean-Paul Marat. He had like a skin infection, so he was always in a bathtub, and there was a painting called The Death of Marat, that where he's dead in a bathtub and he was slain. The guy talked about like the law, its new place. Like, is there a place for law in the new world? This is like pre Reign of Terror French Revolutionary France, where they're just like, what is the law? It's super flawed. Maybe we need to reimagine what the rule of law is within our society. And then he gets assassinated by a person named Charlotte Corday. And when they were tried and executed, they refused to run from like the scene of the crime. And when they were asked like why they did it, they're like, I killed one man to save thousands. And part of me is thinking like, that's kind of what Yuji's deal was, right? Like
Yeah.
he wants to save people, but he knows he needs to fulfill these functions, and so he's going to do what needs to be done to save the people in the culling game at large. Plus, like that's a theme that's already been touched on with like Satoru, the sealing of Satoru Gojo, right?
Right.
Like they're just like, we can throw as many people innocents in the way to like slow him down, and he has to do a cost analysis of like, when do I just start killing everybody
Yeah.
because that's the optimal choice.
That's something that I love about Jujutsu Kaisen is that like shonen storytelling historically is just shown like a lot more altruism inside of its you know, main cast, you know what I mean? Especially like the most prominent figures, but Jujutsu Kaisen leans heavily into utilitarianism and bringing its main characters to a point to where they can make those hard decisions, you know what I mean, because they have to. And then they give you prime examples of that inside of Gojo's outlook, as he is the strongest one there is, dealing with the biggest threat that the world had probably seen for who knows how long inside of the Shibuya incident. This is how Gojo operates when his back's against the wall. He can sacrifice people for the greater good. So like if Gojo's doing it, then like the trickle down effect says like everyone is going to have to adopt utilitarianism if they want to survive here, you know. And Yuji is like the prime vehicle for that because he has the most verbalized issues with hurting people out of pretty much anybody else, you know what I mean? So
and
totally,
that's kind of why I
totally
thought they would go to like go to blows and like draw blood, where he's just like, hey man, you want the game to keep going and I don't want that, so if you won't help me, I'll just take your points, like, and take your life. Like he says, we'll make you use your points, that kind of thing. And part of me is just like, I know that like emotionally he's like probably not accepting that he has to kill it, like he's doing that little bit of deferral of like the transposing that kind of responsibility, especially since he was talking to Megumi and he's just like, hey man, like hopefully we can talk it out with like modern sorcerers, because he was relieved, right? He's like, oh, a modern guy, you're making like modern references, thank god I can like reason with you, we don't have to fight. He really doesn't want to, but like Megumi is just like, well, we're situation's fucked, let's go, let's clean clocks.
I'm not afraid to get my 100 points if I need to. And Yuji's like,
he doesn't say he's gonna get points, he's like, I'm just gonna take you out, and he's like, I know I'm gonna get points.
Well, Megumi a little bit earlier in the arc, when he first encountered Remy, he was like, don't fuck with me, bitch, because I don't got a problem racking up my fucking points or whatever. I think maybe he even says it to himself, or maybe he threatens her with that.
I think it was maybe an internal monologue, like I don't have a problem like Yuji does with just getting points.
It was something
he
like
does
that.
say, he's like, I'm not soft like him, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, shit like that,
So that's why I think that like they're gonna fight to the death, and Yuji's gonna have to, and that's gonna hurt him more, I think, than like what can physically happen.
Yeah, because this would be the first human, you know,
he's like, I don't
that
want
he
to
would.
kill.
Yeah, this would be the first human sorcerer that he would have to kill one-on-one. That's not, you know, a Choso. You know, like I'm pretty sure he thought like, oh, I should kill Choso, or I gotta kill Choso at some point. You know what I mean? He was, you know? He was like a death painting anyway. You know, and then you have Mahito, and then his like you know transmogrified humans that he would throw at him. He's like, well, they're past the point of saving, so
they're
like,
dead anyway.
Gotta kill them. That was like one of his first hurdles. You know what I mean? And then like, but now this is like a new situation for Yuji.
A regular human. That has gone mad with power, and he's just like. But that's the thing. I definitely think that like this arc is going to be more about the quality of Yuji's soul. Like this is a fight for his soul, really. Like that's his arc of like, can he maintain himself
while becoming the sorcerer that he needs to be based on the circumstances that he finds himself in. It's a beautiful journey, man. I feel like Yuji's gets a lot of hate. You know what I mean? For being like bland or like boring or whatever in comparison to like other more bombastic or flamboyant like main characters.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
But I mean at the same time, it's like the subtle character growth is like the between the lines shit is like I'm eating that up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if we highlighted the dialogue from Higuruma on page 17, though. It's really, really striking, where he says that sometimes the law is powerless, but what about the culling game rules? If the power I have received is real, then so are the rules. What if rule breakers got punished according to natural law without any charges, prosecutions, or trials? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I recognize the rules aren't perfect, but I want to preserve the culling game's basic mechanics, so I don't want it to end so soon.
Right. I loved it.
Shit was just fire.
It was so good. It was so well written.
About his character.
It says a lot about his character. It like paints, you know, his outlook in a very poetic and concise way. You know what I mean? He's like, look, man, Court of Law failed because it's just like, you know, two Chads going at it instead of us trying to find the truth of the situation. But like cursed energy doesn't really care about that. You know, like you either do what you're supposed to or you don't, and if you don't, then it fucks you up.
Fucking punished,
yeah, you know what I mean. So like this is a way better system than what I just came from. You know what I mean? Like we're actually getting to the bottom of shit here. Like truths are revealed, falsehoods are removed. You know what I mean? Like that's what the Court of Law was always meant to do, but it gets skewed over so much time from like human error and emotion and, you know, a multitude of different factors, you know what I mean? But cursed energy doesn't have to deal with that. It's a really cool, you know, theme for his character and outlook for his character. And it just fits right in Jujutsu Kaisen as far as characterizations go and goals and motivations and shit like that.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing for me for Ikiguruma is that while he like espouses this love of law and justice, and that like his curse technique even is blind, like justice.
Ooh.
The last line he has for this chapter is just like, as much as he loves justice, he's like, "Hey man, you ever just murdered someone that ticked you off? It feels surprisingly good." Where he's just like, "Hey, wasn't that against the law? Yeah, how much do you really like the law?"
Dude, I bet you his fucking curse technique is called Nemesis.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was a really good one.
That would be fire.
I was wondering if it was gonna be sort of like verdict passed, or like kind of like an imposing a counter punishment, you know, like as a punishment as a counterattack. So he's like, every time you strike me, you take 10 lashes worth of cursed energy.
Oh wow!
Because there's like, oh, you know, like you get punishments based off like, you know, things like 10 lashes was a pretty classic punishment. So I was wondering, I was like, man. Like,
I didn't even think about it until you like mentioned that, you know, justice is blind, and then I look at like the Nen Beast behind him, or like the stand, or whatever you want to call it, and it's got his fucking eyes sewn shut. So it instantly reminded me of the Greek god Nemesis in that way. But there's no scales there. There's like no scales there.
There's a little one.
There's a little scale
at the base. At the base of their legs, they float out of a scale.
Yeah. No, it is there. Okay, yeah. And so also, we could just not be seeing the entire technique. You know what I mean? Like this is just a stand or Nen Beast, whatever you want to call it. It's probably not the full representation of this dude's capabilities. You know what I mean?
Does
so like
shape grow as he adds things?
Yeah, like when he finally starts to turn up, we probably get like hella scale shit. Dude, I bet you the shit is called Nemesis, bro. That would be a perfect name for it.
What if it like, I don't know. I mean, he seems in line with the law, and like, I don't think the technique is gonna straight up like kill you or like physically damage you. I don't know. I think it maybe just, what if it gives you a sentence based off, you know, the actual law, and then just robs you of that amount of your life?
Or like,
based on like what the law would cost you in jail time?
Be, yeah.
Oh fuck.
Oh man, what if it does what if it does a thing where it's like, every time you strike me, you are sentenced to like a week in jail? So if he doesn't knock him out within like a couple moves, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna spend a month in like a little pocket dimension and just wait my time out in a stupid box until like I'm released or something.
Oh my god, wait, so he punches him. Yuji punches him or something, and he's like, that's assault. Second degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, boom, here's your sentence, and then something happens. Or then he, like, asks him a question or something, and he, like, lies, and he's like, perjury. You know? X amount of sentence or whatever, you know what I mean? He just starts breaking
attempted murder attempted murder with intent.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, so, like, he just starts going down the line of, like, recognizable offenses to anybody that would read it. Like, people that have either experienced, you know, these sentences to some degree in their lives, or you would just know from watching like CSI or any kind of like law drama, you know what I mean? Like, and he just starts going down the list of recognizable offenses that Yuji is breaking in the choreography. I think that would be dope. I think that would be super sick.
I wonder if with like the scales, because the thing literally is like floating off a scale.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's insane.
I was wondering if it like he takes attacks, the scale gets heavier, and then he can like do damage, enhanced damage in return. It's like, hey, for these crimes that we have tallied up, you are gonna suffer pain by blah blah blah, that kind of thing.
This is such a cool
Also-
thing to think about because like everybody's got some kind of experience with like law room, like courtroom,
Yeah.
like law, like you know what I mean, like everybody.
Detention.
It's relatable, you know, like to a lot of people. Like you can think of a lot of possibilities for how this dude will operate just based off of just I don't know, just regular life shit. Like most people have a decent understanding about this kind of character and like what they represent. Like we've seen Igurumas all over fiction, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're like based off the beginning of the chapter where they're like Rinamai is like, no idiot, not like that, like this. You can't act like this. You have to act like this. And then when Yuji's walking away, it's like, oh, I wish I'd said something. I need to say something.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's just a little foreshadowing for like you have to behave in a specific way or you're going to get punished.
Right, and just based on their interactions so far, you can tell that Yuji's the kind of person that Higuruma's technique is just gonna work
on.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's his thing.
I was looking at it like similarly, like when he was like, "Hey man, like I'm sorry that I just sent you to Higuruma." Like he's got to know that Higuruma's technique is wildly broken in some capacity. Whether it's whether it's because it's just broken in general overall, no matter who runs into him, or if it's based on his perception of Yuji just being a bad matchup for it, you know, like whatever. Like Rinamai is like, I really don't want to send you in there. So like this has to be a pretty high diff exchange for Yuji, maybe even extreme diff just off of that kind of foreshadowing.
Especially because he's like, because Haba bullied him around, and he watched Higuruma beat the crap out of the helicopter guy. So he's like, yeah, I know he's tough, and if you beat him still, but like...
Yeah, that's right.
Hard to say.
Exciting.
I would like if it was a decently high diff fight for both of them, just because right now they're apart.
Right.
And we could, we could see a lot of growth for the both of them.
Yeah.
You know, having to complete a high diff fight without being able to rely on one another like they planned on doing coming in.
Right.
You know.
And like high diff fights in Jujutsu Kaisen are just so exciting because it doesn't always mean that the person that you're fighting just has like a gigantic energy reserve that you have to get through. Like it's always like nuanced, deep, thoughtful, you know, analytical combat, you know what I mean? And even with a character like Yuji, who's used to just punching his way through things, he does have a pretty high combat IQ. You know what I mean?
Now,
so,
and especially now, lately, he's been deducing and calmly kind of sitting back and figuring fights out a lot more.
But his opponents have still existed inside of the vein of obstacles you can punch through. So, like, if this is a situation to where Yuji's regular, you know, approach to combat is just not effective at all, and he's got to like overcome an entirely new area of conflict inside of Jujutsu Kaisen. That coupled with how philosophical, you know, and thematic a character like Higuruma this is gonna just skyrocket Yuji's stocks after this fight concludes, like dead ass. Like his character is just going to overall feel so much better, you know, than before, you know, the fight started. I want to say this is gonna be a massive point in Yuji's character development.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But,
super excited. I think I'm good.
You guys have anything else for Jujutsu Kaisen?
I'm set.
All right. Well, with that, we can go ahead and get into chapter 215 of Dr. Stone. Long, long road.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was a great Senku and Zeno chapter, man.
Yes.
Like, I forget who was saying it at the end of the chapter, but it was a great just mentor-student montage. Really feel good, showing you just the grind that they have, never giving up, especially the panel at the end of the chapter, that double spread. I mean, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but...
No problem.
That double spread at the end of the chapter was just so beautifully drawn. The dirt and grime on their faces, they've been working for, like, literally years.
Right.
I mean, this has to have taken 5 years at least, probably.
Right.
Just rebuilding all these, you know, like many of these engines have been destroyed.
Yeah, I think it is about like 5 years, right? Because
they said it took Zeno 3 years to build the original one.
Yep.
and then like a bunch of them have been destroyed in these trials.
Yep.
I'm assuming they can probably build one quicker with the two of them together.
Right.
But still, it probably
Yeah.
takes at least a year to build the engine.
Yeah, Yo is like, how many years has it been now? And I was like, brother,
Yeah.
I want to know too, because
I think that they might have a time skip and like actually visibly age people, because like I think that in lack of having a direct antagonist,
Senku gonna have a little goatee.
I don't want
wonder-
Senku to have no facial hair.
Why not?
I don't know.
no,
I don't have a real
puberty,
reason.
it's like- but I feel like instead of like an actual like antagonist, their time limit is like old age, and part of me wonders like, is the loss that comes against the antagonist going to be the older characters like Kaseki? Like they're like, we got there, but like he lived just long enough to see a successful like
Yeah.
rocket launch, and he's like, yeah, we did it. It was
Well,
all
shit, no,
worth the
'cause, I mean,
kids.
It was kind of stated that like once people start to get old, they can just kind of keep petrifying them,
Yes.
leave them as old as they are, and then every time they get unpetrified,
They're
they're
a little
like
bit younger,
bones and
yeah.
they're a little bit like younger physically.
Gets rid of
anyway.
their arthritis and just like heals, like any kind of like old person ailments that you would
There's-
have. But see, like once you start going
They're
into
still
that,
visibly old, but like bones wise and everything like that, they get healed a little bit every time. Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
a question that is like really important for Dr. Stone, because like we can feel the moral, ethical like vibe going inside of Senku and his team. You know what I mean? And now they have this new information that not only does the Medusa revive you from total death, like you can literally be dead and then get petrified, and the Medusa will revive you back to full health or whatever, and then some. But then also, if you're just older, then you can it's like a an age counter. It's like a counter to
Yeah.
old age or whatever inside
Yep.
of like Kaseki and whatnot. So it's like, will they actually use the Medusa in that way? And if so, how will that affect our perception of these characters to be able to decide things like that? Because they have been building up a very altruistic vibe inside of Senku and his team. So it's like, if you're going to do everything the right way and that's your point, then using the Medusa to and obviously like the argument can go out and branch out into a bunch of different ways, like, hey, Kaseki is necessary for the revival of
Exactly.
humanity, so
I
like,
think
yes,
that's the biggest
use the
component to
petrification.
it.
Yeah, but like it's gonna get to a point to where it's like, okay, humanity is good, like humanity is like good to go, like, do we still just keep petrifying Kaseki because we want him around? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Like,
that's
how do we
They're gonna
elevate
revive. They're gonna
someone
be
above
reviving.
other
like,
people?
yeah.
At some point, I'm surprised they haven't already. They're going to be reviving like more modern engineers that will actually have like a bunch of knowledge like in the field of that Kaseki's in already. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
But I feel like
There'll be,
Kaseki's
like, a
strength was
Kaseki
that he
level.
had old school manufacturing abilities, whereas like modern engineers would be like, I know how these pieces fit together. I can't build any
Yeah,
of
I
that."
use my machine for that. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Kaseki's like, well, here I am with the analog method
am
that
the
y'all
machine.
forgot about, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, Kaseki definitely has enough value to where you keep petrifying him, to keep
Yeah.
him able-bodied while you're still facing, world-threatening threats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, while
It just
Y-Man is
feels
still
a
a
little
thing.
uncomfortable to like
Yeah,
keep him alive.
Yeah, exactly. Like looking into it as like, yo, if this takes too long and Kaseki is like on his way out because of old age, do we petrify him real quick to keep him going? Like, that's a huge question. You know what I mean? Because then it's like,
what's the long-term effects of being repeatedly petrified too?
I think it's only positive, really, as far as like what we have. Like, it just makes you better every time. You know what I mean? It makes you younger, makes you more able, more capable. You know what I mean? But like, that's the question that you have to like kind of like think about when you have a cast like Senku and his people, because they want to do everything the right way. They don't want to do anything that can be considered sinister or underhanded, or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
they
don't even
make,
want to breach creepy.
right, exactly. You know what I mean? So like, when you have that in mind, it's like, okay, if this takes too long and Kaseki is like starting to, to lose his luster, like, is it okay that we just petrify him to get him back to like the Kaseki we need for this specific thing? Because then you're going to start asking a whole bunch of fucking weird questions about like
It's
their
like,
intent and like their execution on, certain things, you know what I mean? So
Because if it heals damage, does it like heal stuff like say Alzheimer's, where they're just like they're kind of like wavering between like oh starting to lose it, gets healed, is back up, and you're like,
right, it's gonna get
How
really
sad
weird.
is this old man that's just repeatedly like doing his stuff, slowly loses it, and then they freeze him and bring him back, and he's like, I'm functioning again, guys.
Yeah, that's gonna
Like
feel so weird. Like,
yeah, it would be kind of creepy.
yeah,
So I don't feel like they'll do it, and I feel like that will be the sort of stakes that we've come to appreciate out of this series,
yeah,
where and like really drive home the idea of like the theme of like science is everything we left behind, everything we've built upon that, and like the
yeah,
idea that like progress and stuff like one of my buddies is like, hey man, like I believe that the world that I want to see will not happen in my lifetime, but I'm gonna do my best to ensure that the world I believe in can actually become a realm of possibility
right.
for
We're gonna
future
see how far we
generations.
can get in my lifetime
Mm-hmm.
towards that goal. Whether I see it or not, I'm gonna try my best to make sure that we're on the right track towards that area
And
by the
like
time I
Kaseki's
expire.
had a lot of
Yeah,
moments where he's like, I've lived a great life to see such amazing,
Yeah.
right.
miraculous things.
Yeah.
Like he's felt so validated. It feels like his character cycle is kind of nearing an end. And I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
this is the tied in because they're like,
Kaseki
you've been
death
doing
is
this for
definitely
years.
going to be a thing in Doctor Stone. Like that's going to be a massive narrative
Yeah.
point at some point because I don't think that you have an old ass character like Kaseki who accomplishes as much as he does, has the kind of character growth and development that he has throughout the series while constantly making the point that he's on his way out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Without eventually just delivering on that. You know what I mean? So like
You
that's
can't,
got to
t-
be a thing that
can't
happens.
touch on it that many times without ever really delivering.
Right. And I think
Well,
that
and
they
they've
do
said, I'm pretty
eventually.
sure that
Yeah.
he's against, like Senku has said, he's against the idea of like petrifying just all old people until we can
Yeah.
find a way to like extend their life or whatever because
Right.
like overpopulation is a thing.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, he has said like, oh, all 7 billion of us will find a way to feed all 7 billion of us, but
Yeah.
like you can't
Easier
just
said than
continue to
done.
petrify. Yeah, you can't just continue to petrify people and like have a stock.
That'd be terrifying.
It comes
Actually,
it,
like
it comes
really,
back
like
to the
statuary cemeteries.
yeah, it comes
They're
back
not dead
to
technically.
yeah. I feel like a major thing in Doctor Stone is like a critique of the notion that like science has an agenda or a motive or emotion, you know what I mean? It's literally just the method that we use to remove falsehoods and reveal truth about nature and the world around us. And
It's a
evil
tool.
people will use that tool to do shitty things. Good people will use that tool to do good things. But like it's a very impartial, method. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it will give you the answer to anything if you apply it properly and you're diligent enough. You will get the answers that you want, but it all depends on what answer you're fucking going for. And
Yeah.
that's why
What
I
questions are you asking?
love what questions are you asking? And that's why I love the Zeno and Senku dynamic. You know what I mean? Because if you go back to the Manhattan Project, when they made the fucking, atom or nuclear bomb or whatever they hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki with, everyone started saying like science is fucking terrible. Science is evil. Look at the weapons of mass destruction, the fucking, death ray, the doomsday device that can be made with this kind of stuff. And it's like Senku represents, the altruistic scientist,
yeah.
the altruistic scientist
shit.
that wants to use it for really good stuff. And then, Zeno represents the one, that concept kind of got away from, you know what I mean? That wanted to use science for more nefarious purposes, but how they can both come together for something that is ultimately just the greater good. It doesn't matter what your moral alignment is. Science doesn't really take sides in that kind of way. You can work together to create something beautiful and helpful,
Yeah.
or you can work together to create something sinister and terrible.
Shit, it even goes back to like earlier than that. I was recently watching season 2 of Doctor Stone, and in the kind of ending episodes, they're digging up Tsukasa's sister's statue to revive her, and they're talking about how Alfred Nobel created dynamite.
Yeah.
And in that time where he created dynamite, it was obviously made for like engineering purposes, like mining, building shit, like sculpting, whatever, like a statue, Mount Rushmore, whatever type shit.
Right.
But a lot of people, since it was used for military purposes and like, you know, blowing people up, killing people, were like saying the same thing at that time, like science is evil.
Right.
They were saying he's a fucking terrorist for making something that's, you know, killing so many people.
Right.
But there was huge gains from the use of dynamite, and also in the episode Senku was making the point. He was like, people asked the question, did he make it for science or for war? And
Right.
he's like, I don't care, because look at us here now,
Yeah.
digging and digging and digging to save all these people with dynamite. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, science doesn't take sides.
It doesn't take sides. Like, and look at Zeno and fucking Senku like working together. Like, regardless of like, you know, Zeno is still a very mysterious character to me. Like, we can assume that because his character arc started in a very sinister way, he was the opposition. He was trying to do things in a way that most people wouldn't agree with, and was using science to do those things. Encountered Senku, lost to Senku essentially, and then now they're kind of like on the same side. But it's like, has Zeno's outlook actually changed in any kind of major way? We don't fucking know. I don't think we've actually gotten really introspective Zeno, you know, storytelling since his defeat at the hands of Senku after everything was repetrified again. You know what I mean? So like, does he think differently just because he's here working on the rocket right now? It doesn't matter. The thing that they care about the most, regardless of moral alignment, is that science is working and that they're applying it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And this is what it looks like, regardless of what they both want out of the situation. They're just both geeked up and gassed up to be working on a fucking rocket right now. Applying the scientific method and making it work. Zeno might not even agree with what the fuck Senku is trying to do right now, but whatever, I get to build a fucking rocket. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the point of, you know, a story that focuses, you know, on the scientific method. It's like, it does not matter what kind of person you are. This shit is fascinating.
Yeah,
in general,
especially since that was like his original like magnum opus like career. Like he dedicated his life to astrophysics and like engineering and all that stuff, and he's like, hey man, we're able to make this, we're rebuilding civilization for the express purpose of doing what my life's goal and work was.
Yes,
of course I'm going to do it. Maybe if I'm in charge of something, I'll apply things differently than what others people would believe is morally justifiable.
Yes,
but at the moment, this is what I'm doing.
Yes, and there was a beautiful quote inside of Treasure Island arc where someone was comparing Taiju and Senku. You know what I mean? They're like, they're like, even though these dudes are diametrically opposing personalities and philosophies, the one thing they have in common is their, you know, desire to work diligently on whatever it is that their task is until they see the result that they want. And Senku and Taiju are the exact same way in that regard. Senku on the more meticulous scientific application of chemistry and things like that, and then Taiju just on the hard work aspect of things and labor, you know, physical labor side of things. But that is the common denominator between them, and you can see Yo on the double spread of 18 and 19, like, that's got to break your spirit. How many years has it been going back, you know, to square one over and over? Those two are unreal. How the heck do they do it? And he starts fucking crying, looking
a little bit.
He's looking at Zeno and Senku just having the time of their lives, working on something for the umpteenth time from square one. Like, holy shit, he's shedding tears because of their work ethic and their passion and their love for the scientific method. You know,
they just know that each time they're getting one step closer, because they're they're figuring out one thing that went wrong. Okay, this is, now we knock this out. Oh, now we address this. Okay, now we tweak this a little bit.
Right.
We're getting one step closer every time.
Right.
Even the like progression and the subtle details of the art like really emphasizes just how much time they spent. They're like, it took you 3 years for the original. They do that. The next rocket we see isn't even Senku 2. It's Senku 3.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, it's the third rocket we're showing off. That was the best one. And it just immediately, like, swan dived into the river.
That's massive.
Like,
it's fucking rocket science. You know what I mean? Like, you have to show hella failure here. Like, there was a lot more trial and error in the beginning of the series naturally, you know what I mean, especially before they reached like the Industrial Revolution arc, you know, or whatever. But like after a while, everyone just got so good at doing what they do, you know what I mean, and working together, that they were able to kind of, you know, streamline a lot of the inventions, you know, without showing a ton of failure, and we just kind of didn't mind because they made it make enough sense. But like it's rocket science now, you know what I mean. I'm glad that they made the conscious decision to not shonen
Hand
up.
wave it.
Hand wave the rocket and satellite building, because it's like, this is the meme, you know what I mean. Like this is the like rocket science is like, that's the area of science where everyone's like, this is the mind-blowing stuff that no one can comprehend. So naturally, even if
it's not rocket science.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
All the time.
Yeah,
like,
you know what I mean? So like you have to
weight.
show that trial and error here, especially if you've been glossing over it or just not even applying it just because of how tight your faction is and how good everyone is at their specific roles. You can suspend enough, you know, disbelief in that, you know, in that regard for a lot of the inventions that we've seen inside of Dr. Stone. But rocket science, nah, you have to show the grind, you have to show the time spent, you have to show how this constant, you know, rebuilding from square one, which is realistic as fuck, you have to show how that affects these characters that are so used to the team that they have just banging something out at a moment's notice,
producing
you know what I mean?
consistently. Like I also think that's really interesting. It's like that there's still like a level of terror that would come with it. They're like, so when are we ready for the live trial for us?
Right.
Like, when are we sending us?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's the thing, is like, I know, like, they took so many times, they haven't even succeeded setting up the satellite, right? Like, they haven't even succeeded doing the satellite. And like, I'm thinking about like, how are they gonna get to sending live people one time? They're like, we can have to do this once. We can't have Senku rebuild anything if he's dead.
Right. And then you have like, you know, Chrome and Suika seeming to have like a light bulb kind of moment where they realize something inside of their progress for the return vessel. I'm wondering if it's, you know, they're somehow applying, what did they find out in this chapter? Solar power. Right. So like that was a major realization, or that was a major not realization, but like that was a major like
huge
point
game
of, you know, in like, this is how we're gonna have the satellite, you know, go without batteries, is because of solar power. So they figure out solar power, and and everything starts to come together about exactly how this rocket trip is going to work. And then the last couple fucking panels of the chapter, you know, is Chrome and Suika seeming to have, you know, a light bulb moment, you know what I mean? So like,
some shit up.
I'm sitting here going like, how are they by themselves going to craft a return vessel on par with the work that's been put in for the fucking single trip vessel that they've been working on for years? Like, how are they going to make that make sense? You know what I mean? And
they've also been doing the work in the background for all these years while watching all these trials.
That's true.
You know
That's true.
They
but I still think that it would be
what?
weird. Real quick, I still think that it would be weird if Chrome and Suika found, you know, a solution on par with Zeno and Senku just by watching them over the course of these years, you know what I mean?
This
so there has to be another level to what they are
like
working
them thinking
on.
outside of the box.
This is level 99 science at work though right now.
That's true.
Watching the toppest tier science.
But they're watching, and they're not as capable, right? So like, you already have the aspect of them just watching the two brightest minds in the series do what they're doing that nobody else can really do. And then on top of that, like, they have to find an alternative solution than what they're working on. Otherwise, don't you think it'll feel weird if they're just like, okay, you guys did a rocket, and then we did a fucking rocket that can do yours plus more in the exact same application?
I think it'll get explained.
Yeah, of course.
It'll be like an attachment. It's going to be a return vessel. It's always like a little attachment vessel.
Right. What would the attachment have that they didn't already consider? Probably solar paneling for the return trip.
I mean, they haven't really been considering it, you know.
Well, right.
Because it's always been
the plan from jump that they're not even going to craft a return vessel because they don't have the time.
That's right. So they're crafting a one-way trip And Chrome and Suika are watching them as known less capable scientists. Like we
Right.
know that they are many, 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 many levels below the mind of Senku and Zeno. So
I think with traditional like
yeah,
science and stuff, but at the same time, like one of the other themes in the series is that like science isn't like it is a skill and it isn't, but it's also like, you know, all the knowledge that Senku and Zeno could have
right.
can be given,
Yeah.
passed on to Chrome and Suika
And another thing
in a
is that like
sense.
outside of
Give
the
them
box thinking evolves science. So if you have Senku and Zeno that are the masters of traditional science as we understand it now, then Chrome is the vehicle for that outside of the box thinking that evolves the method. So like he has to come with something that they already hadn't considered for their, you know, own rocket. And the only thing that makes sense based on the information that we have to me is solar paneling, is all I'm
His
saying.
plans, maybe now that you say all this, like maybe he just comes to them with like a blueprint for some plans, like, hey, me and Suika drew this shit up. This is something we thought you maybe hadn't considered. It's not going to take that long to build. Like y'all can come back.
Yeah.
What's good?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then he, you know, it won't feel too hand wavy that he like all of a sudden like whips the tarp off this fucking thing like, yo,
Yeah.
check this shit out, dog.
Sure.
You know, rather comes to them knowing he can't really put it together himself. Like here, like build this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I like that. That's fine.
I wonder if they're going to do a way to bypass like having a ton of oxygen to get there by petrifying the crew and then basically setting up like almost like an automated juice system that will like pour the dissolution, the dissolving solution.
Oh,
on
so
them.
you're saying so that they don't have to use oxygen on the way there, they petrify themselves after launching the ship, and then as they hit that, as they break through the atmosphere, they no longer need oxygen because they're petrified, and then once they get to the moon, the self drip mechanism, you know, depetrifies them, and then they have that much more oxygen for the actual raid of the moon rather
really
than using it to get there.
Land in a zero gravity situation.
Because then they'd have to have a pneumatic system that
even
would
if
push
it's
the liquid.
Yeah. Even if it's a drip, it's just gonna come out and like float.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it has enough pressure, you know what I mean,
So
or
like
PSI
Mello
or
said,
something.
they would have to have it kind of shoot it at
or like,
you, you know?
or like they maybe you submerge them in a gel of the solution. Like if they like add some material to make it more of a paste, so that like, okay, we're going to put this paste, it's gonna delay the dissolving reaction, but we're gonna petrify ourselves now with the paste on us, and then it'll slowly dissolve us over time. I don't know. That's just one way to think about it, but it's not like that's the thing.
I want to assume they're going to make spacesuits though. Like they have to make, like that's the next thing that we have to see them make is like the actual astronaut suits for this.
Because they're not going to be able to go out on the moon without having protective suits, you know?
Right. Yeah. So that's why I was wondering, like, why would they need to, like, you know, kind of prepare for oxygen in that way if they're going to make suits and they're going to give them the oxygen that they need. But I like the idea that they petrify themselves as, you know, they leave the atmosphere so that for the trip to the moon, they don't need any oxygen and therefore have that much more oxygen that they already prepared for themselves as they get to the moon and depetrify themselves.
Because like they're still using like Stone Age material, kind of like they have technology and stuff, but like they're still like using faulty stuff, and they're like, we can't cram everything into the same amount of space as we used to. So here's the concessions we're making to make it viable. I feel like that's the direction we're gonna go with. Can we just appreciate the page 14-15 transition to 16-17 double spread and like the Apollo 13 style explosion?
Yeah, dude.
That was massive, and I was like, that's a great reference. Also tragic.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what they were going for, is just showing the tragedy of that failure.
And I was going to say earlier, like going back to what Mello said a little bit earlier about kind of the establishment of stakes, it was something I had said on a previous episode where I had wanted to see them do some rocket so that for the characters that don't already know this, like the, you know, primitives or the Stone Age people, Chrome, you know, your Kohakus, stuff like that. Establish the stakes of this rocket launching situation where, okay, when can we really send people up in this motherfucker?
Yeah,
Because several of these motherfuckers have blown up now,
yeah,
flipped off the fucking thing into the water. It's
yeah,
all bad. So like,
yeah,
what the actual fuck, you know?
yeah.
So
No, for
that's
sure.
I'm surprised we didn't see any of that in this chapter. It was all kind of like gaggy reaction
Comedic
panels.
reactions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
The
so
stone
I don't know.
face.
Maybe
No,
we go
that's a
into that a little
good
more
point.
next
We
chapter.
yeah, we totally should have gotten like a reaction
Like,
from
holy
the stone
shit.
world born people where it's like that's what can happen to us if we get minuscule things, like not minuscule things,
Yo.
but just like, you know,
We've
one
spent the
little
last
error.
15 years
Yeah.
watching shit blow up, and you're like,
Yeah.
"It's my time to go, guys." To
Yeah.
what? Die?
Right, because it's like
Mhm.
if you see 7 of your fucking ships blow up, and then you ask Senku like what was the problem, and it's like faulty wiring. It's like that's a like really like, you know what I mean? Like that's not related to coding. That's just like, oops, I didn't put this in
An
the
air
right
bubble
place.
in the
Exactly.
fuselage was
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, the margin
That
of
was
error
actually one of
is
the-
Yeah.
that small for us
The
all
thermal
to
insulation
die.
was corroded by gas, which poked a hole in the nozzle. Like, what?
Yeah,
What?
just
What?
like little issues like that can just
Yeah.
mean life or death for everyone aboard. I feel like we definitely should have gotten more of a reaction from the Stone World born people, you know, like in that regard. That's a really good point, Eagle.
I
But
mean, yeah.
that
I
would have
mean,
hit, like, it's not necessary. You don't need it, but like that would have hit that much harder for the stakes of, you know, the people from the modern world that go like, yeah, we've kind of seen this kind of thing before. But the Stone World people are like, this is the magic science chariot that's gonna bring us to Y-Man, and it's that easy to just like kill everybody on accident because you like just didn't put the thing in the right spot in like entirely correctly. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like 3 centimeters off where it needs to be, and then everyone dies. You know what I mean? Like that's scary as fuck to them, probably.
Yeah.
To everybody in general, but even more so to Stone World people who are seeing all of this shit for the very first time and have this trust in science, like it's almost a deistic, you know, kind of superpower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
It's
that's
their
heavy
way
for
of
them.
life.
Yeah.
It's their way of life.
Yeah.
They're talking to like living ghosts, effectively, people from a world that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like on page 15, that thing is like, it's just like how in coding, forgetting a single hyphen in a line can cause your whole program to fail. And it's just
Yes.
like, yeah, that's and like even then, they still have to code the son of a bitch properly.
Right.
Yeah, that's
with,
tough.
With an N64 computer.
Yeah.
NES, not even N64.
Yeah, it's like NES tier, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah.
Insane.
Oh,
Dang.
it's up there. That's why I think that Kaseki is probably gonna die. And
Yeah.
Stop.
That sucks. It sucks,
I'm
but
sorry.
it's
He's
something
one
we
of my
all gotta
favorites.
fucking like, you know,
This ain't
yeah.
easy for me. This ain't-
Yeah.
I love Kaseki. I'm an old man
Kaseki-
myself. Look at this cardigan. Come on, like.
But no, we do, even in this chapter, we really don't see Kaseki doing too much, like, of the hands-on. Like, he might really be kind of on the decline. We see
Retiring.
him,
Or we
see
just
him
get
welding a little bit on
Yeah.
page 13. But then
Yep.
even in the panel on, like, page 15, those are really the only 2 spots we see him in
He's welding.
doing
like, that's the thing.
anything.
Where is he on 15?
He's up in this just
He's
little
right
panel.
by the calendar.
Yeah, just kind of watching Senku and Zeno do their thing, not really even doing anything hands-on.
Yeah, like
Oh
he's welding
yeah,
or
that's right.
something.
He's just chilling there. Yeah. So then we'll probably just get like a hella Kaseki centric chapter next time then, where it's like,
I think
okay,
so.
we've all
This is
You-
my last, like, engineering hoorah. You know?
something like that, you know. I don't fucking
This
know.
is my masterpiece.
Like, he'll
Yeah.
come in
Solved.
clutch. Like, they'll really be struggling to figure something out, and he'll come in clutch by, like, really streamlining
Noticing,
the
like, a
design for
metallurgical
something.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like something. Yeah, really, really, really minute that he'll tweak and
Yeah.
be the whole thing that puts everything together.
Or they'll focus on like how taxing this has been on Kaseki specifically because there's so much machining and artisan work that goes into all of these failures, and he's been, you know, the head of all of the physical meticulous
Labor.
lathe labor, yeah, you know what I mean, lathe and machining labor that it's taken to rebuild this rocket 7 times,
Welding all these
yeah,
rockets.
all of that shit, you know, like we'll probably see like a super spent Kaseki like focus or something like that in the next chapter or two, when it's like, dude, you fucking like lasted throughout this entire 5-year trial and error process, going back from square one, re-welding everything, re-machining everything, like all of that stuff. I know we're going to get some Kaseki love for exactly what this 5-year montage actually meant for the people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be nice if we get that. But
hell yeah. But I think that's about all I had for Dr. Stone this week.
That's all I got.
Same.
All right. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and move right into chapter 83 of Mashle. Mosh Burn Dead and the Shadow Eater.
Yes.
And we get this nice little color cover of Mosh with the Levis is his name?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And this Chuck Norris ass roundhouse perspective.
Ooh, coming in.
I felt like I was gonna get kicked in my shit.
Yeah, I felt I liked how they're both facing you, but it felt like he was like about to kick him in the face too.
Yes.
It's like it's got a weird aesthetic to it.
Got that spin to it, but I love it. It's very movie poster. It reminds me of like those Bruce Lee movies, like Enter the Dragon, where they have like a picture of him on the cover mid kick, and I was like, oh, he's gonna be Bruce
and then like
Lee.
villains in the back. It does look like
I
that,
think he's actually. I think this might actually be like directly inspired by. I don't know if it's Enter the Dragon. It might be like Chinese Connection or Game of Death. But one of them, he's actually like throwing a fucking roundhouse at the camera. I think now that you mention it, that's insane. I love
that stuff.
Yeah.
Also, like the main, like the early threat in this series, like the Shadow Eater, very strange to me because it's straight up D&D. Like there's a literal creature called a shade. It is a living shadow. It's an undead creature. It can it's amorphous. It's shadow stealth. It's weak to light, sunlight, and they literally have their only attack is strength drain, and it'll like drain your stats to 0. And if you enter 0, you straight up die. You go to 0 strength, you're dead. Average person has 10. And like one of the things is like if a non-humanoid is killed by a shadow, it comes back as another shadow.
Night King type beat.
Yeah, like it's just a really basic undead, and I just thought it was really funny to watch him.
Or just basic zombie shit.
Like campy, like physics bend his way to just choke home the goddamn.
Dude, okay, so as much as I love Mashle for this kind of shit, I was like, bro, fucking throwing a living shadow in an armbar or a triangle choke or whatever. I was like, how does that make sense? But it just means the Shadow Eater has a physical form. Like that's all it means. Yeah. So like that's fine. You know what I mean? Like that's really cool. And like this is why I like Mashle when it blends its comedy with its action, because like the Mashle, solutions to powers is just amazing no matter what. Whether you're looking at it from a literal point of or from a a physical point of view, or whether you're looking at it from a comedic point of view, it's just like hits, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, it hits your shadow. How do you take your shadow away? You do exactly what the fuck Mash did. And it's like, okay, like that's great there on the physical side of things. And then on the comedy side of things, it's such a moronically simple solution that it's funny, So it's like, that's where Komoto really knows what the fuck he's doing, if anything, you know what I mean? He's great in a lot of areas, but like showing how Mash gets through situations that the reader is like, well, I wonder how he's going to deal with that. That's Mashle as fuck, you know what I mean? Like that's the lifeblood of the series.
I just like that his solution tied into the previous chapter of crawling at top speed.
Yes.
Like he's like, it worked for me when I was a baby, and I'm still alive. So
he was fucking
Tokyo Drift.
If this shit beat Domina,
previous chapter,
it's like if I beat Domina at 5 months with this technique, this Shadow Eater is out of here.
I like that it's also like it's not, they never call it a living shadow, it just says it lives off shadows. And I'm like, all right, that's cool, I like that, because like, okay, cool, it has a physical aspect. Then I thought it was kind of funny that like the stupid prisoner magic mouth kind of guy is just glowing to enable his thing.
Oh.
Like he's got this giant, bright, shining face, and that's why the Shadow Eater's
Oh,
able to
that's so right.
attack shadows. I was like, that's a nice little. I love little combos in that because you can
Did
like.
they specifically like comment on that, or
Yeah.
like, and I just missed it?
Yeah, they said
think
it's super.
did.
The light in here, the brightness in here.
Yeah, there's nowhere to hide
amplifies
Yeah,
the
that's what he
shadow in
said.
this
Yeah, he
bright
said it's
room.
super bright in here, so that's why there's tons of shadows. But the brightness is coming from him.
Yeah.
That's
So
tight.
he's
I
always
did not
casting
notice
a
that.
shadow, and I
Yeah,
like that a lot.
I did not think
And
about
then I like how Levis, his power is basically nepotism so far.
that. Yeah.
My magic is nepotism.
Yeah.
Dad, rig the game for me.
Help me
Right.
out. My dad owns
Hey.
a dealership.
My dad's a
My
scumbag,
God.
but I'm not above using that power because,
Yeah.
you know, it's whatever.
My dad is
weird.
like connected, bro.
Bro, my dad totally owns a dealership. That's an Aqua Teen reference for
Oh my
anybody.
god, he's the Malfoy of the series.
Bro,
See
I
my
love the
father feels
okay.
about this.
I love the
Right?
bunny
That is just-
panels.
yo.
I love the bunny panels because it's like super cute bunny bottom of 10, and then like I don't know, fucking
Watership down terror.
yeah, it's just like oh my god, like you can like just because of the contrast, like from
Yes.
from bottom of page 10 to top of page 11, I feel like it
That
hit
bunny
me
is a
harder.
god.
Yeah, because it's like yes, this is a very detailed, scary, you know, drawing. Like it looks like some Junji Ito shit. Like very high detail. Like it's just a completely different bunny. Like it's not the same rabbit. You know what I mean? So like that page turn, you know, factor for that did what it's supposed to. But it's just almost just like man, like I forget that Mashle can do that sometimes. You know what I mean? So like when I page turn into that, I'm like, damn, it's almost like I don't know. When I look at it, I think of like that one frame in SpongeBob that's like Victorian painting tier detail. Like whenever they go from like some lighthearted like funny shit to like jump scare like scream in the
Oh,
background super high
like-
detailed painting.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
The Adventures of Flapjack.
Yeah, like they do it a lot
kind
in
of stuff.
Flapjack too.
Oh,
Actually,
that's so
Flapjack is a
creepy.
better is a better analog, I guess,
It's like
because they
Ren and
do
Stimpy
lean
level
more
kind
into
of
the
creepy.
horror side of things, the creepier side in Flapjack than SpongeBob does. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, at certain times, but SpongeBob also has, you know, some very dark moments. But yeah, Flapjack, I would say, was a little more consistently
Yeah.
kind of.
Maybe it slaps harder in SpongeBob because you're expecting it less, so it's more jarring because it's fucking SpongeBob that hits you with
Yeah.
it rather than Flapjack that's always kind of has a base level of creepy to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Uh,
Anyway.
I like
But
that we
Mr.
finally
Pickles,
got
though,
our
it's
first
crazy.
protagonist, like combo attack.
Oh shit. No,
Because
they've had to have comboed before.
But,
Wait, is
like,
this really the first one?
This is the first squad combo attack because they're using,
using-
Margaret's like sonic acceleration
Yeah.
on
And probably some of
the
Lance's
doll
like
centipede.
gravitational propulsion, you know.
No, Acceleraze is Abyss Razor. So he's giving the
Mhm.
buff. He's giving the accelerating buff. And then obviously Sounds comes from Margaret. Headbutt comes from Mashle.
That's what the arrows are on the baby's foreheads, right?
Oh shit, the Acceleraze. Yes, Eagle. Great
Oh,
spot.
I was wondering about that. I was like, is that just kind of like a goofy this side up fragile contents or some shit? Like, I don't know. I
Oh,
was
see,
just like,
now that's a
I don't
really
know,
cool
man.
way to interpret it, even though it like that's wrong. Like that's the kind of like thing.
Why'd you say it?
Well, no, I didn't mean to
I'm
say
not
it like
just
that.
the
I
way
didn't
you
mean
said,
like,
no,
that's
no,
wrong.
no,
Crack
no.
me up.
Like
It
we
did
know,
crack
we
me
know
up.
that that's Acceleraze though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it is
Get 'em,
wrong, but
comment
like
section.
no,
Defend me.
no, but I'm just saying like
Don't do it, don't do it.
Mello's
Get it.
mind. You know what I mean? Like that way, like
Yep.
that mode of thinking. Like that's why I love these kind of conversations, bro. 'Cause it's like
So it's
Uh,
like Acceleraze plus
Yeah.
Gravial plus Sounds, you know, acceleration of some sort.
yeah.
And then plus Masha's like physical, you know, ability to like bash through these walls. Or really, actually, it looks like Dote's just using his head as a battering ram.
Yeah, they're literally
Yeah,
using
he's totally
battering
grabbing him.
ram.
Yeah. So
for
I
the
wonder what.
propulsion, they're really just using like the
What if they're just
Acceleraze,
using
Iron
Graviol
Magic,
to like
and
increase
Graviola.
Mash's density? Because there was a
Oh.
game that I played. It was called Hero System, and one of the powers was super strength, but it could be created from gravity. So if you're denser, like you increase your gravity and have higher density gravity density than your opponent, you could just throw them around because your gravity is inherently stronger.
Oh.
Yeah, see, that's another really cool like thought too. Like I hadn't even like I'm literally just trying to figure out like what the sound is doing. Like because like everything else makes so much more sense. Accelerates boost to give everything a speed buff. You know, area of effect inside of Abel's dolls, battering ram application of Mash's head. Like everything makes so much sense except for like the sounds. Like is the sounds adding to the speed of the attack? Otherwise, like what's the accelerates for? You know,
Well,
is
the sound has
wonder-
been shown to be used in a lot of different ways. Like it
like
could be
concussive force.
Right.
concussive force to
Okay.
break through the walls, help breaking through the walls. Could
that
be
just
a
seems
speed
so
thing.
random compared to everything
been
else that's
shown-
working in unison almost.
been
Honestly,
shown
I
to-
thought the music was like working in concert because I thought Abyss Razor couldn't apply his accelerators on things really beyond himself too much.
Oh wait,
Remember? Because I maybe I'm misremembering it. Like I know
no,
he's
but
able
you
to
still
use
just
it.
said something like really cool. Like it's a concert of abilities, so the sound
Yeah, because they're all
magic
using them together.
is like helping it in like a way of like I don't
That
know,
could be an
man.
application
But,
we
like,
haven't seen
Margaret's-
yet because
Yeah, it
there's
could
so
be
many
that too.
magics working together. He
Yeah.
can apply a certain effect. That would
Yeah,
be
so they're
dope.
like-
Wait a minute.
Hello!
they're like-
Wait a minute. We
I
have
want that to happen. 'Cause,
we have
like,
no. That's
Margaret's
really
fight-
cool. Yeah.
Margaret's fight was really brief and it was a solo show. So like, and we didn't really explore his powers beyond like concussive force of sound and like the speed of sound, that kind of thing.
I'm just
We
so
never-
I mean, it
mad
was
'cause
shown
it's-
by him to be
yeah.
used as a transportational ability as well, right? Like he could be zippy with it.
Right, but then also then it's just like okay, so Acceleraze is there obviously as a speed like the clear speed buff, so it's like sounds only working as a way to make them go faster when they already have a method of going faster. It's like that works practically, sure, go as fast as you can, but it just seems so like not it just doesn't fit in with everything else. But sounds, at least to me, but sounds being used the way that Mello kind of said it as like we have a concert of abilities being
Tempo,
used,
yeah, like
you know,
everyone's on
in
the same tempo
unison.
now.
And like that
Yes.
that makes it sounds cooler, but like or that makes it sound cooler, but sounds ... is that going into the Acceleraze boost? Or is sounds just not finished as like a technique?
I'll be honest,
You know
I
what I
thought
mean?
that like Sound's Accelerace was the full ability and
Yeah,
it
okay.
wasn't Abyss Razor. When you guys mentioned Abyss Razor, I was like, oh yeah, they did have that one ability.
Yeah,
So,
no, I
like,
think
I was
that's
just like,
exactly what it
oh.
is then. So this is a specifically they're focusing in on page 19. They're specifically focusing in on the combination of Margaret's ability and Abyss Razor's ability
Yeah,
because
he's boosting the acceleration.
exactly. That's literally what's happening. And I said that was like the dumbest thing, but it's actually
that's-
probably what's exactly happening right now. Because it's like okay, sounds ... and then Accelerate's boost finishes the sentence. So this is a team tandem duo attack. You know,
And it's the same style of speech bubble, which is the best
Exactly.
indicator we get as to
Yeah.
who's speaking, you know.
right. Okay, so it is just a double speed boost in the form of Margaret and Abyss Razor working together directly. So like
Yeah.
that makes it feel better than if it was like because originally I was looking at it as headbutt doll mash headbutt doll AoE and then Abyss Razor making everything faster. I thought those were all working together specifically and then just sounds in the background. But no, it's sounds and Accelerates together for the overall speed effect, plus at Abel's AoE with his dolls and Mash's like point of contact headbutt. So like now it all really works together. But that concert shit earlier though, Mello, was fucking drastic. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
like
no, I
how in Volcus his teammate kind of insults him, like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so why do we need all these tricks? Because like we're obviously winning. Like,
Right. I
is
just like
that a mission of weakness? Like that kind
Right.
of thing, like a little dig."
Yeah, no, and I love how they're like talking about it amongst themselves, right? You know what I mean? Like they're actually asking each other these questions instead of just internal monologues, that tell us what they're thinking individually. You know what I mean? Like it's literally
Mhm.
like, yo, like we're cheating, but like, do we need to cheat? And that's the conversation rather than I'm strong enough to beat him anyway. but I'm a cheat. You know what I mean? Like it just
But I'm a
hits.
cheat.
It just hits. It just hits differently.
But I want to.
Yeah, it hits differently when they like address it amongst themselves, like as a group. You know what I mean? And then obviously they bust in, and it's like, okay, we cleared one of the trials, but like we're not going to focus too much on the trial aspect of the divine visionary test because we want this to eventually just be a magician versus magician clash. But like we still have to like show you the rule and trial, you know, kind of system that we have going on that's a theme in the series as far as obstacles like these go. So like you have to show at least one leg of that, but then they come to a very logical conclusion of, okay, we got 1 star, but like you clearly rigged this. Maybe they don't know that they rigged it, but like you guys are obviously going to get stars faster than us. So now that we've got this one and we've shown you what it looks like to go through a trial, we can kind of fast forward to the end game event of us all fighting each other because we know you have more than us already. So, I mean, and then once we beat you, we can clear everything else much easier or whatever.
Exactly. So I figured at the beginning of reading the chapter that there would be somebody that with that viewpoint.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, that figured, hey, we can do this easier if we just fuck them up first. You know?
Yeah.
And or even like, hey, we have a star now. They can't, you know, they can't finish it. We can't finish it because they probably got one already. Right. So now we just scrap, take theirs, find the rest.
Yep.
It's also like taking a page out of Valkus's book. It's like, oh yeah, no, if we fight you, you can't enter the game. So why don't we just fight you? You want to fight anyway. Like you're talking shit anyway. Like you're like at the entrance ceremony, you were trying to kill us. So like, of course we'll fight you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this chapter, man. It was great. Great setup for the final bout that we're clearly going into here. Yes. I wonder if it will really just be them starting to fight each other individually in whatever groups that they're going to break off.
I think it's just going to be an all-out melee.
Just all-out melee.
Everywhere, like aggro's switching. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Domina and Mash is
like
going to be the
main Wano Wark on a smaller scale. Together.
What if
it could be a one-on-one? Like maybe they move around a little bit and then kind of conflicts settle. The 1v1s settle, they move apart a little bit, and like now we get the 1v1s a little bit.
As much as I love
maybe a melee.
As much as I love the 1v1, like it starts as a melee and then breaks off into 1v1 in, you know, situations. As much as I love that formula, melee all the way through is that's what I'm saying. Is like I think that like, and if it's not melee all the way through, then like just different combinations than one-on-one. You know what I mean? Like anything. And it could go either way, and that would be tight. You know what I mean? If it's one-on-one, if it's full melee the entire time, if it starts as melee then breaks off into one-on-one, or if it starts as melee and then breaks off into some other combination outside of one-on-one, either way, that's going to be shown beautifully inside of a story. Maybe like Mash.
Like a 2-on-1 here, a 2-on-1
exactly.
here.
I'm waiting for the 3-2-1 split.
Right.
I'm waiting for that 3-2-1 split.
But I'm also like wondering if like some of them will be like, okay, like if everyone's going to be fighting, then I'm going to go grab the other random stars. And I'm thinking that like maybe someone on both sides comes to that conclusion. You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, you guys go ahead and be meatheads, but like I'm going to go over here and collect the shit that we're going to have to look for after this anyway. You know, so it could be a situation like that where we have a big melee in one part and then another perspective is a battle of wits trying to get remaining stars outside of that between two characters that broke off. So I think that'd be a cool way to split it. But like I said, it doesn't really matter how it's you know presented. Komoto's going to snap in that representation. So
I liked what Mello said though about the 3-2-1 split. I think that could be a nice dynamic. We get the, you know what I'm saying, just the group of 3 versus another group of 3, 2v2, and then Mosh versus Domina. You know?
I feel like that's what's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
I do think that if we do split off, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. Finish your point.
I feel like if anybody's gonna like fuck off and like try to find the third star, it's gonna be Dot.
Yeah, something like that.
That would make sense. But I was just gonna say, and it would make sense thematically as far as like who we have in the group. Abel and Abyss Razor kind of team up as the group of 2. Then we get Margaret, Lance, Doe, 3v3 team, and then Mosh by himself versus Domina.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
So
that definitely could work, that 3v. You know, that 3-2-1 split. But I think, if anybody branches off for the comedic effect, it would be dope.
Would it have to be comedic, though? Because, like, what if someone like Lance is like, okay, based on the superpowers involved, I'm not really needed here in this particular clash that everyone seems like really
Ooh.
excited about. He's clearly like the most forward thinking character. You
But
know
I
what I
think his
mean? So
abilities also are the more impactful to the fight
that's
than
true too.
Dote's. And I think, seeing just thematically with the series,
Yeah.
seeing Dote like running around like fumbling through rooms like, ah shit, this thing's in here. Oh fuck, this is
Yeah.
in here.
He do be
You
on
know what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Actually,
finding the
now that you
stars or
guys
whatever.
talk about it, what if Mash is the one's like, I'm gonna go find the star, later bounces, and then Domina's just
No
like, no, you're not
way.
getting away.
Yeah, 'cause he
And
was
so
Oh.
he leads him away to do that stuff. And so Domina is just like, I must kill Mash. And so he's just chasing Mash Scooby-Doo style through this mansion.
Okay, so
Or
I like this idea. I want to say one, Mash is the type of motherfucker to just stay in the mix of action and square up against anyone at any time. But also, it's a comedy, and he does be having like weird brainlet moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where like he'll like
he's like,
so
I
like
need to split you up.
yeah.
I'm conflicted on how I
Um,
feel about that potential plot development. Just because he is the one on page 21. I mean, it's really a double spread, but page 2021, he's like, I realized it'd be easier to get the stars after beating the snot out of you. So I think, I don't know, if anybody stays in the fight, it would be him. But
True.
we definitely could see any development go down. It's Mashle. We never really know what's about to
Yeah.
happen.
Right.
I mean, what's the funniest thing? That's usually my take on it.
Oh,
Whereas,
sure.
that
Yeah.
would pretty troll. Because like I feel like I really want to see Lance, Dot, and Margaret like complement each other's magic. So like Dot does an explosion, and then Margaret somehow increases the volume
Increases its
of
effect.
of the explosions,
Oh.
so they become like almost like stun grenades.
And then
So he
Lance
creates, like, a-
localizes it. Oh shit!
and then like maybe like he does like Dot does like a series of small explosions. The volume's increased, so they're like rapid, but they're disorienting. And
Yeah.
then he also mixes in a couple explosions to blow up the ground. They
Right.
fly out, and they do like the gravity like home run comet kind of thing with like
Yeah.
Lance's gravity magic, where like the debris is enhanced.
I was thinking about it
Um,
as like exactly how you were saying. Dote throws the explosion out. Margaret enhances the vibrational effect of it, and then Lance, kind of bottlenecks it, hourglasses it in a single point. You know what I mean? Like with his
Oh.
manipulation of gravity, he can choose, where the gravity is more present and where it's less present. So like naturally, if like we're following, Green Lantern, I mean, logic, like you can imagine, like, and they kind of, manifest their magic in a similar way. It seems to me, at least they don't have a spell book with specific applications that are there for them, like a grimoire or something like that. It seems to be
feels more like
imagination
Zatch
based. Yeah, exactly. So if he can localize the point that the gravity is like forcing the energy to follow through, then he can localize the damage that Doubt is creating and that Margaret is magnifying. So like that's kind of how I envisioned it, but I don't think we've seen an application like that from Lance yet, so maybe that's like maybe out of the ballpark, who knows. But Komato's more infinitely more creative than me, so like
cool
yeah.
combo application I just kind of thought of we could see through Margaret and Dote is like we've seen Margaret have the ability to imbue her like his note magic with effects of kind of like Apu type shit where he can slice you with the notes. He can imbue it with like explosive force, concussive force, whatever.
Yeah.
So what if he tells Dote like here, cast an explosive spell on this note that's already an explosive type note, and it like amplifies it even that much further, and now he can like much more directly
Or-
cast that explosive note at somebody, and it's like fucking 10 times the effect
I love
because
that.
he's got it in combination with Dote's actual explosion magic.
That's really
Oh
cool.
man, what if like he throws out a cutting note, and it's like it's going to be cutting damage proportional to the sound that you put into it. So the Dote's explosion is loud, it creates a large cutting power, and then with like gravity magic, he keeps the opponents pinned to an area or like
Oh,
lower their mobility
shit.
so they just
Exactly.
get hit by those things.
Yeah,
Yes,
that makes a lot more sense. That he
that's
would
so
use.
cool.
It makes way more sense that Lance would use his magic in relation to crowd control to keep
It's the
targets in
CCI.
range of Margaret and Dote's combo. That makes way
Yes.
more sense.
Oh man,
I love
well,
that. Holy shit.
I'm excited
Well.
for this fight. I think Levis is going to be the first one down, just because of like the way
Sure.
he's like, yeah, I'm willing to cheat.
My
And, like,
dad
this
owns a
dude's like,
dealership.
dude, I hate those dudes. I hate those dudes so much.
I
They're
don't
always
know, man.
dicks.
I like Levis. I'd like
I
to
fuck
see
with
him
Levis. I'd be cool
know
with
what I'm
him
saying?
going down first though, because he
I don't
is
know.
Yeah.
that dad owns a
I want to see
dealership
him
type
actually
nigga.
able to back his shit talking up, though.
You want to? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, he definitely has to flex to some degree. Absolutely,
Yeah.
because they have built him up kind of crazy. So
Yeah. I don't know.
you don't
Because,
want a
like,
one punch man like Levis. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like you don't want to. Like this is multiple chapters of build up for this character inside of his
True,
capabilities.
true.
So it's like if you if you low diff him, then that it's gonna, I don't know, at least inside of me, it's gonna make me go, okay, no characters matter, because as soon as they run into Mash,
True.
or as soon as
I
they
just
need to be dealt with, they're
remember-
gonna be comedically dealt with in a very quick fashion, and it's gonna be like, okay, well, why did I care
I
about
just
you at all?
remember the hype for the Margaret fight.
Yeah, for sure. And I was disappointed in that. I was disappointed as
Part
hell
of
in
me
that.
is like, maybe hype is kind of like a counterintuitive concept.
Sure.
When it's applied in like the kind of absurd realm of Mashle. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe I want to, like, can I apply conventional like manga rules to this, or is he gonna
No.
try to support it every time?
Yeah. I think Komoto makes a point to, like, zag wherever we're expecting him to zig, you know what I mean? So, but like on a comedic level, not on like a deconstructive level, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I don't know. You literally like just can't tell.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I'm good on Mashle though. I don't have anything else, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I'm good on Mashle as well. All right, with that, I think we can go ahead and get into chapter 310 of Budokuruba, Unyielding Right and Wrong.
That's a cold-blooded title for the chapter. I'm not
That
gonna
is.
Mm-hmm.
That is. And we get a lot of cold, like, just choreography and art this chapter.
Yeah. I saw
With
people
the,
complaining about like their inability to follow the action. I didn't have that issue at all this chapter.
Yeah, no, it seemed pretty easy to follow for me, at least.
I like the choreography.
There was a
Yeah.
couple panels where it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. Like on 7, the top right panel is just kind of like a top bird's eye view. It's really, you can't really tell exactly what's going on.
I don't think you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to just know that it's a zoomed out clashing of abilities. Yeah.
Well, and it's just you get an eye on the destruction of what's the actual scale of the damage these attacks are causing.
Yeah.
You know?
It seemed pretty like reasonable, right? Like you're fighting something that is a racing literal space. So it's like, of course, things are going to be going to shit because they're structurally not the same anymore. It's missing mass.
Yeah. Now that's a complaint that people have. Man, what was it? Grant Morrison's Final Crisis. I don't know if anybody like really reads Western comic books like that, but there is a complaint that people had where it's like Grant Morrison just making trippy psychedelic clashes of energy and like weird paneling, and you don't know what's going on because the dude's on drugs or something. And like the point of Final Crisis is that like the multiverse is like literally collapsing, and like things are happening above the realm of comprehension for three-dimensional beings, you know what I mean? So naturally that has to be represented in a chaotic way to where you have no idea what's going on because you are a three-dimensional being reading it, you know what I mean? So I don't want to say that Tabata is going that far in his application of illustration on this panel, but like whenever things are chaotic, my point is that whenever things are chaotic and represented as, this way, it's like you don't need to see every detail and be able to map the trajectory of everybody in a chaotic action scene, you know what I mean? Like things are falling apart everywhere. How well would you be able to tell what's going on if you were literally right there?
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I honestly really like this choreography because it feels less splashy, right? Like we talked about last session about like I love the Naruto like Land of Waves arc where he's like using transportation mobility to like gain an advantage. So I really liked the moment on oh shoot, like page 12, 13, and 10 and 11,
Yeah.
where he's just like, okay, I've gained Saint Stage, like his like synchronicity with his like sylph sprite familiar is increased, so he's gaining power, he's becoming a more powerful mage, and it gives like an active reason for why he's leveling up.
That
why
was
he's
amazing, dude. I loved page
Yeah.
10. Saint Stage is attained when the resonance between a spirit and its host is very close to 100%. It's like that's the kind of shit that just like adds to, you know, the action. You know what I mean? Like when you have power system exposition in the form of narration over the battle, superimposed over the battle as like an omniscient, you know, third party letting you know like this is how this is going as you're watching it, it adds just more theater to the situation. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And
then
you see it in
And
Hunter
it makes
x
all the
Hunter.
sense given the time that has spent with Sylph or whatever her name is. Or,
Yeah, yeah.
No, Belle, not Sylph. Why did I say
Yeah.
Sylph?
Bell.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sylph is the type of spirit it is.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
So yeah, it definitely makes sense, and
Yeah.
it felt really good getting that at least explained, so it wasn't just like, oh, now all of a sudden he has Saint Stage. What's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's cool that
And it
they
almost
subtly
feels a
built
little-
up. Yeah, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, it almost makes the Noelle shit feel a little more jarring in retrospect because it's like she kind of attained Undine and then pretty quickly went to Saint Stage level attacks
Oh,
and shit.
sure.
So it's like
Well,
it almost makes you wish
she
there was
wasn't
a,
really hiding anything of herself, right? Like even Belle said in the previous chapter, I feel like I'm finally seeing the real you,
Yeah.
right? Not the borrowed magic, not the magic I've like
Oh,
helped,
sure.
like shared with you,
Yeah.
but like your own personal magic.
Right. So
Period.
maybe it's because like a combination of what Mello is talking about inside of like Belle and Yuno's relationship, even though they've been together for much longer, they have like, you know, multiple scenes inside of the series throughout it where they are connecting on a deeper level, but you do have that like kind of Yuno being a more reserved, introverted personality, coupled with the fact that he wasn't even using his natural affinity to begin with. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then now him
Noelle was
kind of
using her
having
natural
a
thing.
having a more character driven stretch of storytelling where he's kind of coming out of a shell, coupled with the fact that he's now getting his natural born star magic. Now Belle is like, yo, we can really do this Saint Stage stuff. But whereas
Yeah.
Noelle and Undine was more of like we were the purest parts of ourselves and like, you know, super transparent from the get-go. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Like water.
Yeah, exactly.
like water.
Yes, yo, okay. So yeah, they just clicked right away. But no, you're totally right though, like Eagle, that can seem kind of weird that Noelle achieves Saint Stage with, you know, Undine so
quickly,
much
yeah.
quicker than, you know,
And
Belle
she was
and-
also in a similar situation though, where she's like fighting on the brink of death or whatever.
right.
So I guess that
The
adds a
Super
little bit of-
Saiyan.
Yeah, you have
solution.
that aspect, and maybe that's just there to like make the Noelle and Undine stuff feel better.
feel a little better. Yeah.
But like I like the conversation that we just had a lot more in regard
Yeah.
to the explanation for that, because like if you look at it as like Saint Stage is attained when the resonance between a spirit and its host is very close to 100%, that makes all the sense in the world for Yuno and Belle. Doesn't make as much sense for Noelle and Undine, but then you add the narration box of you're fighting for your life for a while and you can get it there too. You know what I mean? Then like
Yeah.
that feels a little bit lazier,
Less
I guess.
hand-wavy?
Yeah, well, if it just feels a little
It's-
bit
it's
lazier
tricky
to add
because-
that box there just to like look back at Noelle and Undine and feel better, rather than the conversation that we just had about how
Yeah.
you know and his personality kept him from being really in sync,
Yeah.
with Belle, plus the fact he wasn't
I like
using
that a lot.
his natural born magic. And then
Yeah.
over on the Noelle and Undine side of things,
I
where they wear their
mean-
hearts on their sleeves and they were just more compatible from the beginning, that feels way better than just a narration box saying, but if you also do this thing, you can achieve it too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got a couple really cool things this chapter, like with the
really cool art.
the new star magic, the flagellum, which somebody said in the chat of my live reaction that flagellum is the Latin word that translates to whip, which
Okay.
is
Yeah.
very aesthetically in line with what the attack is doing here. It's like a kind of a
Yeah.
laser whip almost.
That's
Comes
funny
from the
because it
word,
totally
flagellate.
it
Slice
totally
his buddy shit.
it just says that in the I think I read the fan scan for Black Clover, and you
It
just
probably
got,
says it in the
yeah,
in
you
the
got like a
translator.
translator note for that, like in the fan scan. I want to
Well,
say.
and there was also a translator note for the next page as well. Somebody pointed out in the chat,
Oh,
or actually
Dane's Leaf?
dropped a link in the chat for Dane's Life, yeah, or Dane's Leaf, is it?
It's Norse, Dane's Leaf.
Where
Where's
it's like,
this?
it's translates to
What page
Dead
though?
Legacy.
a dead
Or
legacy.
Dane's
It's like
Legacy.
it's a sword that once drawn like has to kill somebody before it can be
Yes,
put away.
it's an old Norse legend. It's a legendary sword. Dane's Leaf, it translates to Dane's Legacy. Dane itself translates to dead, so Death's Legacy or Dead's Legacy. And then it's just a cursed sword forged by the dwarves. It's like the most famous and talented craftsman of all the cosmos. Um, and yeah, it's an evil sword. Like it was a weapon made for killing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I really like how in the art on page 2 and 3, he gets cut in half and then he reaches into his regenerating self. Looks like he pulls out his spine and his sword is his spine.
Wait.
Like look at the top page of 3.
Yeah.
He's down his spine. It's slowly regenerating, but there's no bones. And then his sword looks like segments of his.
It looks like vertebrae.
spine.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I was like, "That's super
tight.
cool."
That's
I
super
love
tight.
like Kimimaro Naruto.
Yeah.
Really good.
It's little shit like that that makes like the execution like really matter inside of, you know, a conflict that has a very predictable conflict resolution. You know what I mean? Because it's like we talk all the time, or at least I do talk all the time about how formulaic the escalation of conflict and the action kind of is inside of Black Clover, as far as like them reaching an obstacle and them overcoming it. It kind of follows like the same formula pretty much every fight, but the execution, you know, inside of that formula and how you kind of like tweak it and throw, you know, different kinds of funk on it, you know what I mean, is kind of like what matters there if you are going for a more formulaic approach. So like inside of this fight specifically, even though we knew that Yuno was going to go Saint stage eventually and this would be the perfect fight for him to, you know what I mean, like we that was predictable, like we knew that was going to happen, but the execution of it with the narration of the Saint stage and then little, you know, things that you kind of like notice inside of the art of the choreography, like Mello just pointed out, really adds more to that. You know what I mean? It's little unexpected things inside of an expected outcome. You know what I mean? Like that's really important. You know what I mean, for a story like Black Clover, in my opinion.
Oh man,
it's kind of like
the way they
late.
use conjunction.
What were you saying?
Me? Oh, I was just
Yeah.
saying it's kind of late going back to the Dane's Life point, but I was just reading about it in this Wikipedia thing, and there's a really cool quote here that I want to read.
Yeah.
Dane's Life is King Hogni's sword, and according to Snorri Sturluson's account of the battle, known as da-da-da, some I can't pronounce, it's like a Eastern European, like Scandinavian word. When somebody offers the king compensation for the abduction of his daughter, Hogni replies, "Thou hast made this offer over late. If thou wouldst make peace, for now I have drawn Dane's life, which the dwarves made, and which must cause a man's death every time it is bared, nor ever fails in its stroke. Moreover, the wound heals not if one be scratched with it."
Yo, that's
And that
pretty
just
fucking cool.
that's a hard ass quote. I just wanted to read that.
That's fire. That's tight. So basically, it's like every time I brandish this,
Somebody's got to die.
like
and the
whoever,
wounds don't heal, like it's
yeah,
on some
It's lasting consequence.
yeah, whoever wields it has to die after, and any damage that's taken from it can't be healed.
and it's got unrepair. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
As hell. That's hard as hell,
Dude,
bro.
it's really cool.
Leave it up to the Norse mythology to give you metal ass shit like that. Yeah.
So much fun. But yeah, What do you think of like the fourth sibling, like the brother in the wheelchair?
Yeah, I wanted
He
to talk
gives
about
me
that
like
panel, dude.
Bloodborne
Is he in a
vibes.
wheelchair or is it just a chair?
It's a
I think
wheelchair.
it's a
He's been in a wheelchair a
wheelchair.
couple
Yeah, I'm
times.
pretty sure it's a wheelchair. But
Um,
I love the effect that's used on the top of 6 for that panel, because it's like we already know that this is a mysterious figure. We've always kind of seen them either at a distance to where it makes sense to cover their face with shadow, or from behind the back over the shoulder to where you can't see the face. This time it gives us a straight on panel with them looking right at us, and still like just goes the distance to, you know, make them a mystery. You know what I mean? Not just in shadows, but also in this fucking grainy like TV static effect that is clearly just like an artistic flair to add to the mysterious nature of the character. It was a brilliant move, I think, from Tabata on that panel.
it's
Top of
really
the-
just off-putting.
Yeah, for real though.
It reminds me of Bloodborne a little bit,
Oh,
where like
okay.
you've lost the ability to perceive him somehow.
Oh,
I wonder if
Man, what else does that remind me of? Oh my god, you've lost the ability to perceive.
one of the like maybe the price of contract is forgetting certain things. So like the face of his loved ones, or
There's
is
a
that
Black
just-
Mirror episode like that, I think, too. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Sorry,
because
keep
like
going.
devils will pay in anything, not just physical things. So like metaphysical things, like the memories of things.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just you
cool.
saying like losing the ability to perceive something is making me think of the newest god in Smite, Kulina. She's a Celtic god. When you hit with one of her abilities, the god that you hit with the ability loses the ability to perceive you as Kulina.
How do you spell that? Kalina?
And no, it's some crazy fucking spelling. It's not spelled at all.
I'm just gonna go
how you
Smite,
pronounce it
newest
here, yeah.
god.
Smite, newest god, yeah. It's like some Celtic spelling. It's like not
Charybdis. Charybdis or some
No,
shit.
see, oh, they don't even have it updated.
Oh.
But no,
Oh,
yeah,
Cleo.
basically,
Yeah, I see it now. Queen of the Banshees.
yep, exactly. Yeah. When
Yeah.
you hit with, I think, her 3 or one of her abilities, the god that you hit with it loses the ability to see you until you like either use another ability or take damage. So that's immediately kind of what I thought of. when you
That's
mentioned
sick.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
pronounced Kleena, but it's like Cleodhana.
that. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's
Man,
definitely.
I liked the little conjunction teleport. Like that's probably one of my favorite parts. It
Yeah, it was
very
sick.
much reminded me of like old school Naruto. Just like you thought you got me, you stabbed me. Beep, I'm behind you, and gotcha.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
hell's heart, I stab at thee, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tight.
Hell yeah.
It was dope. I'm glad that Yuno got his W. I think the
Yes.
philosophical clash between Yuno and Zeno was well enough represented.
Yeah.
As predictable as the escalation was, like the execution
Mm-hmm.
of it, like I was saying, you know what I mean? Like it was just great, you know what I mean? Like as far this chapter specifically was a great
Helped
conclusion.
redeem a lot.
Yeah, great conclusion to the conflict, yeah.
As
inside
far as
of
the
Black
theories
Clover.
that I mentioned, though,
Yeah.
about the brother, people have been saying, like, in the communities that it's possibly like Zeno. Or not Zeno. Sorry. Julius.
Oh my god.
And apparently that
no.
there's, like, a shit ton of evidence to support it. I haven't, like, looked
I
into
don't
it.
know.
But,
I mean, he does kind of look like Julius in the bottom page 6.
he looks like Zeno looks a lot like Julius.
Oh, what? That's so
Oh
weird.
shit, yeah, he totally does. Oh no, that's crazy.
Oh, bro.
I just want to say again that, or maybe not again, but I just want to also say that I'm glad that they gave us like more background panels for Zeno throughout the rest of the con, because we were talking about how his background, his backstory slapped or whatever, but like it felt short, and then we were talking about how like Tabata will probably add more
Dude,
backstory for him throughout the rest of the fight.
If Julius is the fourth sibling, I will absolutely lose my shit.
Yeah, that'll be insane.
Yeah, no,
Because he's like
insane.
such a friendly, warm, bubbly character, even with his overwhelming power.
But he
Like,
does always look like he like knows like something that that he's like he has a burden with knowing, you know what I mean? Like like you see a lot of panels of Julius, and like it always makes sense for the scene because either someone's wilding and he's like, oh, I'm worried about that character, or like whatever. But there's just like a little bit of ominous, a little bit more ominous vibe that I attribute to those scenes that I'm remembering right now. Now that we're having this conversation, you know what I mean? Like now that this is a possibility on the table, I'm looking back at like, you know, what I remember of, you know, Julius's interactions with other characters in certain moments, and
He's
wondering
obsessed with
if the facial expressions that he's making at that time might, you know, lend
take on a new
towards
luster.
this to some degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, what I was saying though about these flashbacks, like the flashback inside of this chapter, where it kind of like goes back to the Zogratis siblings, and you just get a little bit more, you know, black gutter work in regard to Zeno before he's eventually beaten. Like I like that injection there. I still wish that there was a little bit more, but I think that Tabata is saving it for after the defeat. I think we still get like, you know, post-mortem Zeno and just Zogratis sibling flashbacks, obviously. So like that totally works. Thinking about that for the future. But if this was all of the flashback that we got before Zeno was taken down, then like it would feel a little bit flat to me. But like it's clearly setting up a mystery for more than one character. It's
maybe as he's kind of fading out, he'll like have a little bit more flashback, and then we might even get like a little more injection of like mystery on the brother, or even confirmation of whether it's Julius or not, because maybe and as he's fading totally out, he'll be like, oh, so and so, like we were wrong, or you were wrong, or I made the wrong choice, so and so says his brother's name, you know what I mean? And then we're like, oh, who the fuck is this? Or like maybe he says like, we were wrong, Julius, you know, and then everybody's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but then
that would be really interesting,
because now I'm wondering like where the name Nova Chrono comes from then, you know what I mean? Because it's like obviously you just change your name, whatever.
I mean,
you know, but now
Nova means new or star, and then Chrono is time. So like,
which
if
makes
it's
all
new
the sense in the
time,
world. Yeah,
would
new
be
time.
kind of interesting to Jew.
But I'm just wondering because it's like, okay, if your name was always Nova Chrono, then we would know of other Nova Chronos, and I don't think we do. At least I can't remember them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the fact that if they haven't gone into Julius's lineage to any degree, then it makes sense as a possibility that Nova Chrono could be a made-up name, and that his last name is actually Zogratis or whatever, Julius Zogratis or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
man,
like, I'm just thinking
so
of how it can make sense. Yeah.
That'd be extremely satisfying, to be honest. Like,
that'd be crazy.
That would be a hell of a reveal.
Yeah.
Like 300 chapters in or so.
I
honestly thought that the older brother was like a devil that like made him forget that it's not his real brother. Just
that'd be very
like
devilish,
kind of on brand, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then
that'd be wild too. Wow.
Yeah, I feel like both of those have merit. I like the idea is like it's impossible to protect them all, so let's just destroy them get them destroyed temporarily, like, you know, for a time. Just they're gonna be thing, but we'll bring them back. Time is circular, kind of thing. So like, if that like mentality would fit, it would fit with Julius's character a little bit. It's like that Dumbledore reveal, right? You're like, oh wait, you're actually an evil old man. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like that kind of feeling.
That'd be wild.
Like, it'd be cool. It'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think either of those possibilities are crazy. I think that a lot of like Black Clover theory crafting is the community thinking of like really cool things, and then Tabata just doing something like incredibly standard in comparison. So we'll see. You know what I mean? But like I mean, I guess I like it now that we've talked about it. Originally, someone was like, Julius is the fourth Zogratis. I think it was Eagle that originally brought it up, and I instantly was just like, no. But then we talked about it, and now it's like, okay, we're thinking of really cool applications of this now. But at the end of the day, it's like, we'll see what Tabata does.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's about all I had for Black Clover this week, though.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, same.
All right. All right. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and get into the Piece de l'Existence, chapter 1029 of One Piece. The Tower.
Yeah.
Which is a hype as fuck title after you finish reading the chapter. Like, man.
I'm so glad that it like came back to the Sanji and Queen perspective for a little bit before.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm honestly like, I don't know. I'm upset with Sanji.
How do you feel
in this situation?
Yeah.
I wish he would just embrace it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I understand why he wouldn't want to, but yes, as a reader, I'm like, Sanji, just lean into that shit and just like be all you can be, bro.
It's
You know what
I
I
saw
mean?
kind of a
happening
speculative,
regardless.
Yeah.
I saw kind of a speculative theory, which is something I've thought in the past, where Sanji is actually the only true perfect creation of Judge because he has all the aspects of the exoskeleton, the regenerative properties,
Yeah.
and the physical strength, but he actually still has his emotions, where the other three are technically the failures.
That's cool.
Even though that's
but,
not
like,
what he wanted.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because like Judge clearly thought that the emotional aspect was a flaw or a
But
liability.
it doesn't necessarily make it
right.
You know, even though it's not what he wanted, it's still the like. It kind of goes back to the Vegapunk fruit thing, where even though Vegapunk called the fruit a failure, it's the only smile that actually seems to be a
functioning perfect,
perfect create. Smile.
I feel like this is different though, okay, right? Because so if Judge, in all of his wisdom, as far as we can fucking take that, sits down and goes, the perfect super soldier is one that has a regenerative healing factor, super strength, heightened reflexes, all of the superhuman attributes, but then just no emotion. Right? So if that was his idea of the perfect super soldier, and then the story lets us know that if you have all of those things plus emotions, it's actually more effective. And we see that through Sanji, and that was just ignorance on behalf and arrogance or with stupidity on behalf of Judge, then like that's cool. If that's what the theory is saying, then like I'm all
that's
aboard
what it's kind
with
of
that.
getting at.
Okay. I thought that like I don't know, I guess I don't know how I took it differently than that now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, then I like that then. You know what I mean? But I guess I was taking it as like you were going, okay, Judge didn't know that. Well, I guess that's the same thing then. Never mind. It's a good idea.
I think it's
a good idea.
Because looking back to Whole Cake,
it
was
it's
kind
him
of
being proven wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, especially looking back to Whole Cake, it was kind of emphasized that Sanji was better than his siblings. You know? Maybe not at the time, but in certain ways, because they did help him escape at the end of the day with like their speed or explosive ability, but he definitely, it was hinted that he was the better one out of the siblings, it's because of his emotions,
right? Which is obviously going to speak to the people who have been reading the series for that long, because we know that the Straw Hat outlooks are the proper ones. You know what I mean? Like, so like that's what the story lets us know, despite all of the all of the obstacles that they meet and all of the clashing outlooks and ideals. Like, they always make sure that they introduce some kind of flaw in the antagonistic force. No matter how much they're spitting, there's always some flaw that they introduce that the Straw Hats make up for in their ideology. You know what I mean? So they let us know that these are the people that we should be rooting for and why constantly.
I think it's like the reverse heroic flaw, where for Oda it's the villainous flaw. The villain can be as strong as it needs to be, but no matter what, there's always going to be one personal failing that keeps them from succeeding. I think theme-wise of like Sanji not wanting to be a monster, I like how it's kind of emphasized by going against Queen, because like when I look at page 2, Queen looks like Godzilla. At the bottom of 2, he looks like Godzilla. And what is Godzilla known for? Fighting other monsters. Sanji doesn't want to be a monster, but he's obviously showing the signs. Like this, for him, it's a body horror moment, right? Like, I don't recognize myself. I'm transforming. I don't like it. Like,
and
this
the biggest
is the thing,
is him
he doesn't
feeling,
want to lose his humanity.
He doesn't want to lose his humanity, right?
Running,
He's thinking back to his siblings and going like,
I don't want to lose my emotions.
They're all that, and but they don't have the human element, right? So he doesn't, and that's why I'm saying like it makes sense that Sanji would feel this way, despite like knowing, probably like it's like, hey, I'm getting all of these power-ups or augmentations to myself that are falling in more in line with my siblings, but he's got to still know that he has that emotional aspect that they don't. Maybe he thinks he's going to lose it, and that's why he's anxious.
I feel like if I suddenly had that, I was like, is heartlessness a symptom of these side effect, like these abilities? Is it like a symptom? Is it a side effect? Like, will I lose myself? And he's caught up in his own fear before he kind of accepts himself and like becomes a stronger person for it. I feel is just his big thing.
Yeah.
I'm just excited that like Basil Hawkins is like showcased in this.
We got Hawkins
fight.
stuff, big Hawkins
Yeah,
stuff.
because I really thought he was a really cool character that got very little like front row center attention. Period.
Yeah. And that's mainly just because of the mystery surrounding his ability. I feel like people don't even care about Hawkins as a character as much as they finding out exactly, or as much as they care about finding out exactly how his devil fruit works, because that's been one of the biggest questions inside of like at least my area of the community when we're talking about supernovas and we're talking about like the interactions between Hawkins and anybody. We're like, okay, this dude's got one of the most confusing fruits. Like, how exactly does this stuff work? We've been asking that since Shabandi or Sabodi or whatever. You know what I mean? So now that we're actually through Wano slowly but surely finding out exactly how his fucking ability works, if it's like, hell yeah, now we really know all about Hawkins, you know what I mean? And it feels really good the way that it's represented, because not only have we already known for a while that his ability transfers damage from himself to the people that he has bound with straw doll contracts, but like we never knew the limits of that because we never really had a reason to think of limits for it. You know what I mean? Because it's like voodoo doll shit. You know what I mean? Like you have the voodoo doll, you're in total control until you take out the voodoo doll controller, you know, or something. But this application of getting through the ability is just like so brilliant from Oda to inject here, because we're so used to, I feel like at this point in One Piece, because we know that it's not really about the fights so much as it is the narrative impact the fights have on the individual characters that we care for. So like we're totally cool with it just being a clashing of convictions with like escalating attacks going back and forth until someone is defeated, because we know that otherworldly, you know, like implications and ramifications are going to come from that give us stakes in other areas. You know what I mean? Like we know that's going to happen, so we kind of give One Piece a pass on that usually. But this is Oda going like, hey, you didn't think about this, and this is like, you know, a point of like whoa for you when you're reading this chapter, because it's like he slices off, you know, Hawkins' arm, and he's like, where does the damage go if the person you have a voodoo doll doesn't have an appendage there?
Doesn't have a proper conduit.
Yeah, exactly. Or what? Yeah, however they said it, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's one of those like, oh, okay. Like,
so that was so slick.
Really cool strategy in combat moments, you know what I mean? And it's obviously delivered in a very powerful and badass line from Killer. The flow of it was just beautiful. It felt like earlier One Piece, you know what I mean, when I was reading it. And like whenever it happens in post time skip, I'm just like, Oda, you did that. You know what I mean?
You did this shit out of that.
Yeah, plus he gave it like the almost full page with no background. Like that was so fire. Sorry, Mello, go ahead.
Oh yeah. It's like the Rob Lucci fights a little bit with like when they first get introduced. It's Cypher Pole and stuff. That was so good. I like that the mysterious character still gets a kind of like flashy but mysterious death, and like his final moment is his like absolute fear of the future. He's like, I have to get the absolute best result, and so by putting his hands in like a fate system, he's locked himself into a path, right? Because he believes these things are bound to happen. He locks himself into that, and he does force himself. And I think that kind of keys into the idea of the Yonko, and that they believe that like, you guys should just give up. This is impossible. This is fate. We are obviously stronger. You can't possibly fight us. You can't fight fate. So I really like the fact that Basil Hawkins dying or falling is like a symbolic thing of like, you're going to a place beyond fate. Right?
Yeah.
And like inside Paul mentioned, man, mathematically, this doesn't make sense. They're like, we're using logic, we're using math, and then Basil Hawkins, we're using mysticism, we're using fate. Doesn't matter what way you justify it, it's not. They're going beyond expectations, and so I really liked this chapter.
That was really
well. It harkens back to the earlier moment in Wano when Hawkins is fighting against Luffy and Zoro. And basically he's doing the cards and telling him like your probability of winning this battle is what did he say back then, like 20%, 10%, like 5%,
Maybe
2%,
even, yeah, I was
something like
going
that.
to say,
It's
it's
like
like a
10.
really low number.
1 or 2%, something like that. And this panel on 15, bottom middle-ish left here, like top left panel of the bottom section of the bottom left part of the page, the last portion of the page.
Yeah.
When he pulls the card and sees the tower, he knows the meaning. So like when he sees it, he instantly realizes like, yo, I fucked up, and it is the 2%. It's the 1%.
Yeah,
like
something
he
like
knows
that.
because
Yeah.
of the meaning of the card. The in Strawman cards, the tower means the collapse of the old and brittle, and its hidden meaning is a new way forward.
Wait,
So
where's that?
that's on page the very last page on the
Oh, yeah,
17, second
yeah,
to last
yeah,
panel.
yep.
In Strawman cards, the tower means the collapse of the old and brittle, and its hidden meaning is a new way forward. So he sees that card and he instantly knows, oh shit, I fucked up. It's the 2%.
Right.
Like they're taking this shit.
Yeah. Amazing.
The odds are in their favor now. Yo.
I like tarot, and it's fitting. I like that he basically adapted the meaning of the tarot because it just means massive change, right?
Yeah.
Chaos, change, reversal, that kind of thing, upheaval.
Yeah.
So I like that he just kind of like took it and didn't like completely change it, but he's just like, yeah, just a gentle tweak, perfect change.
That's so tight. Like, say what you will about like One Piece in 2021 or One Piece post time skip or whatever, like Oda's still got it in regard to like poetic application of conflict resolution inside of a very chaotic situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is a bunch of fights going on at the same time that all have like a specific flow to them, whether you think the fights are too long or not long enough, rather, or whatever, you know what I mean, about his composition and pacing throughout the arc. It's the between the lines shit, you know, that Oda really excels in, you know what I mean? So the fact that he's keeping it all together to this degree aesthetically, while also applying the poetry in between the lines to this degree, it's just like, man, even if it's not the Marineford you thought it was going to be, like Wano, I feel like in retrospect, on a reread, not week to week, for a lot of the people complaining about it, is gonna slap a lot harder, you know what I mean? Like, it's the little shit that I don't even like notice when I'm fucking reading the chapter for the second, third, fourth time, until I come into this setting here and I have conversations about it with you guys, is when I start to see like the really cool shit. So like, I know that, you know, deep dive One Piece communities have got to be having similar conversations. I'm not a part of them as much as I am, you know what I mean? Or as much as I was before, you know what I mean? But like, still, like, it's there. It's still there. Like, all the things that make Oda the legend that we praise him for is all still there inside of like current One Piece storytelling, you know what I mean? It's just not progressing and escalating to the point that people think that it should be at this point, or whatever. People have been, you know, having a lot of like, with a story as long as One Piece, where plot threads linger as long as they do, everyone, you know, decides how the story should go to them after a while, because you have so much time to sit and stew on possibilities and potential avenues that the story could go in, you know what I mean? So when Oda doesn't give that to you after you've been positive and so sure and wanting it for so long, it's gonna feel, you know, disappointing to you, especially if you've been putting so much time and effort into that possibility, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, what Oda is presenting inside of his own mind, despite the expectations, like, it's still spectacular. Like, when you really sit down and talk about it, you know what I mean? Absolutely. It's still got so much going for it, even if it doesn't feel like it did 3 times, you know what I mean? And that's just the planning. Yeah, that's the last thing I'll say, but yeah.
This panel of Killer chopping off his arm is so drastic.
Fire.
With just the all white background.
Thumbnail.
Hawkins like,
Yeah.
like, and I was saying this in my reaction, and imagine never feeling like, or does he feel pain with his ability? Do we know? I don't know.
Now he does.
It transfers the pain.
I think he takes the hit, obviously, and it's shown that he takes the hit. Whether he feels pain, I don't think has been explicitly stated.
I don't think he feels the pain.
We can assume
I don't
that
think he does because it transfers it.
Right.
So imagine not feeling pain for your ability for like 10 plus years, however long he's had it, and then all of a sudden you get your fucking
whole arm chopped off.
Just a whole new experience of pain. He's just like, I forgot the pain. Dude, I love it because I like that like Killer also gets the all white treatment 2 pages later on 16
Yeah.
when they do the spin in Sonic and he cuts down Basil Hawkins. It's like double tap plus like uh he like a tarot card, he's upright and reversed. So it has like that
Oh
2 moments
wow.
where he's attacking Basil Hawkins and he's just like boom, front side and reversed, boom, boom,
Yeah.
both
Damn, that is pretty
meanings,
cool.
double tap.
Love it.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's tight.
I liked that so
And we
much.
got
I've got one thing. Do you guys have anything else for One Piece?
Well, I was just gonna say I saw some kerfuffle online. People kind of upset, like typical like meathead shit. I would call it, like where they're like, "Oh man, I'm upset about how Big Mom apparently had a bad showing against Kid, like a nerfed Kid to this degree. Like how could she not take him out when he's got such a big nerf?" And it's like, I just
She's
don't
been fighting
understand
all
why
day.
people. I just don't understand why people get upset about this kind of shit. For one, because like the card says, it's time for the crumbling of the old guard and a new way forward. For one, like this is the story. This is the direction it's been going. We all know this. These fucking like I swear they just want the Yonko to just continue to dominate the world and win.
Is she having a bad showing against Kid, or I
And
think
secondly,
that,
that's what I said. Like she's whooping
feels
their
like she's
ass,
dominating.
bro.
yeah,
him.
she's literally dominant. Like he's just. This is a showing of his durability and conviction.
Yeah,
Not
and
a
that's-
showing of how inadequate
His
or
endurance.
incompetent.
That's the thing
Yeah.
too. I feel like people
Yeah.
still want to look down on these characters as like being so weak in comparison to the Yonko when it's been shown that they have been progressing and getting to this next level.
They're just trying so hard to fit them inside of their, hierarchy of power. You know what I
Schema,
mean?
yeah.
And they
It's-
still
Their personal
yeah,
view.
it's literally just like I've been arguing about who the top 30 strongest characters in One Piece are for like 5 years, and I had Big Mom this high up on my list, and she's having an issue finishing off Kid even though he's got nerfs, and it's like there's a story to be told here. This isn't like a literal tournament, you know what I mean? Like this isn't a tournament of power. This is a actual story that has more to do,
It's about a war.
there's more to it than you know what I mean? Like this is
None of
just-
these
just
fights
let
are in
him-
prime condition.
yeah, I don't fucking know, man. It's hard to really articulate exactly how I feel about it, like off the top of my head. But like Big Mom is beating their ass. You know what I mean?
And they're struggling like a motherfucker. Even then,
Right.
it's showing that it's going to take both of them to beat her.
And
because
is Big
she's
Mom
she's
even
fucking them
trying
up.
as hard as she can? Like, does she even need to?
She's having fun. She's
Yeah,
having
like,
a good
we know-
time.
we
She's got
know-
a big old grin on her face. She's
Yeah,
chilling.
like,
Law's
she's
probably
chilling.
been fucking with her the whole time, like he was on page 6, where he like hits her right in her shit with a
Yeah.
counter shock, you know,
Yeah.
and she just takes it and continues, just keeps it pushing. Like
They're making no
fucking-
progress here.
Zeus or
Yeah,
not
Law's
Zeus,
buying time at best.
Yeah, these are all
Yeah.
like we're seeing stopgap measures. You know
Yeah,
what I
very
mean? Like
much
Big Mom is dominating this. So it's
Yeah,
like, what? You
and-
want her to have already just killed them? No, I'm
That's what
sorry.
people want, I
There's
swear.
a
That's
story
how,
to tell
how
here.
stopgap
Like,
measures work.
I'm sorry,
Like,
dude. Like, okay, you want Big Mom to just clap them, and then you're like, ha, Big Mom is as strong as I thought she was, or Big Mom is stronger than I thought she was, and that's better for my point. Whatever, I
I'm
don't
John
fucking know.
Cusack in high fidelity. My top
Yeah.
five's been maintained.
You got to understand like what moments in One Piece are being used for. It's not just a fucking fighting video game with set
Yeah.
HP bars and set power scaling for strength, durability, agility, and like all that stuff. It's like, no, man, like we're showing Kid overcoming like a crazy situation right now with a
Yeah.
Yonko on his back and his support that can barely keep it together.
It's like Queen, right?
Yeah.
He's not tough. He's not particularly special, but he's lasted and endured and been front row center for a lot of these fights and stuff. But like, no one's like, oh yeah, Queen's the best. Queen's this. It's like, no, he's a good example of what Sanji does not want to be.
right.
Yeah.
Again, that's his role within the story. Like,
People just don't understand One Piece, bro. And they talk so
I swear.
confidently about it. And it's like, maybe I don't understand One Piece either, but it's like, I'm not spending hours and days and weeks of my time arguing about shit like
I'm not
this.
trying to mathematically prove anything.
There's
in
like
it.
so much more going on in One Piece that's so much more interesting than how strong characters are in relation to each other. And I know that they make a big deal about that in One Piece as far as how strong characters are in relation to each other. But for a story that's trying to do as many things as One Piece that has so many more important facets to it than that, I think they're doing a good enough job inside of the power scaling considering all of that. You know what I mean? It's like you want 1-to-1 comparisons for your fucking weekly Twitter arguments. It's like, I'm sorry, but like this isn't Kengan Ashura. This isn't fucking Record of Ragnarok. Go read those if you want those kind of conversations.
My parting thought is actually about the cover art.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
I'm actually really glad you guys didn't, because it's nice to save it for this.
My babe Bonnie.
We've been talking about, hey man, where's Jewelry Bonnie? We think that she's gonna like shrink back Momo.
Oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
And Oda likes to use the cover to kind of hint at what's going on forward, or just like, you know, it does a lot of side stuff, but he does also like to use it as a foreshadowing element. Like he had a little bit like characters that were related to Safer Pull before they revealed Rob Lucci kind of making orders to grab Nico Robin in the background of all this. So like that was foreshadowed. And then they're like, how are we going to de-age Momo? Oh no, this is such a huge sacrifice. He will never have a childhood. Maybe innocence can persevere the hardships of the world. And that's the real victory of the Wano arc. So maybe Jewelry Bonnie is going to be in there.
I didn't even think about that as potential foreshadowing for Bonnie pulling up to the confrontation. Like, I have obviously been talking about how, like, if, you know, Shinobu is going to age Momo forward, Jewelry Bonnie would be a way to age him back, but I couldn't really think about why she would be there. You know what I mean? But like, we have definitely talked about that multiple times, like you said, about the possibility that Jewelry Bonnie could like kind of reset that situation. And showing her in a fucking cover story right now, even though it was a reader request.
Just a reader request.
Yeah, but like you never know. Like Oda could,
which ones.
Yeah, he gets to choose which one. So it's like, this is the perfect one right now. If I'm gonna have Bonnie pull up a little bit later to like reset this situation
within,
that
like,
I created.
2 more chapters, maybe.
I don't know about 2 more chapters, but like definitely
like
before the end of the conflict. Absolutely. Like if they are going to be like, yo, Momo, we aged you for this specific kind of situation, but it just isn't right to just rob you of all of your years like that. Like go forward as like the new king of this situation, as your whole self entirely. You got retainers to like build you up, like remaining retainers, I guess, to build you up until you reach, you know, your coming of age kinghood. Let's put you back to 8 years old or whatever. Here's Bonnie.
I think it makes sense thematically though for his character, for him to have also sacrificed 20 years in the way that some of his retainers did, and a lot of the followers, you know, that aren't some of the Akazaya that got teleported in the future. Like a lot of them sacrificed 20 whole years of their life in like horrible poverty or destitute, or even, you know, watched a lot of their comrades die. So I think thematically it would make sense for him to also sacrifice 20 years in that way.
I could see it totally going either way.
But I want the kid to have a real win beyond Kaido dying.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that it'd be because like I feel like his story is such of like loss of innocence, and like how can innocence endure a world as corrupt as this,
right?
You know, so part of me is just like maybe
I'll say this too, off topic, but earlier in the arc we saw Zoro against the Straw Man, and he was struggling, you know what I'm saying? This was before he got Enma. But he was struggling against Hawkins Strawman, and in this chapter we see fucking Killer. He beheads the Strawman.
Out of here.
Just wait. Hey, don't let my man get Shingetsu and Mangetsu. You know what I'm saying? He gonna get the twin moon blades. Killer gonna be out here, boy.
Yeah.
We're in Wano. He could get the Shingetsu and Mangetsu.
I love that.
That'd be tight if he got a weapon upgrade.
Yeah, that'd be super sick.
That's another shout out to Smite too, by the way. Tsukuyomi, the god of the moon, uses the Shingetsu and the Mangetsu twin
And then
blades.
you also have Shangri-La Frontier, Togetsu, waxing and waning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
man. Hey, man.
But I think that's about all I had for this. Yeah, this One Piece chapter.
I'm super good on One Piece. Great conversation though.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that'll do it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did, be sure to slap a like on this video. Like I said earlier, it helps a lot. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as well, and you'll get fire weekly content from us reviewing Jump. Be sure to take a look in that description box down below where you can find links to any and all of our individual social media accounts, such as Twitter, online communities like Discord, audio listening platforms, whichever you prefer, we're on all of them. as well as links to support the podcast through our Patreon or our online shop. So, with all those words said, this will be another incredible episode of the Project Manga Podcast wrapping up. I'm your host, Eagle.
I'm Knox.
And I'm Melayanis.
Sarabada.